Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the dust-caked sandals of someone who walked Petra's forgotten aqueducts back when this desert pumped water like Vegas pumps neon. Right now, your boots scrape across sun-stroked limestone, every step kicking up whispers from traders dead longer than your great-great-grandpa's Instagram. Don't worry, I'll go easy on the history lectures. But fair warning, if this script were a desert hike, you'd probably die of thirst before the end credits. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Shout out your location and local time in the comments. Tell me if you're sipping midnight coffee in Oslo or sweating through a Delhi afternoon. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your toes curl against hot stone, the ground's baked so hard it feels like walking on armor. Above you, the 6 canyon walls press, close their rust-red curves, blocking out everything but a sliver of white sky. That faint gurgle underfoot, that's Petra's pulse. The Nabataeans didn't just carve tombs here, they wrangled flash floods into submission with dams and pipes. Mainstream fact incoming. This place had more plumbing than a Roman bathhouse, all to survive on just 12 days of rain a year. A sand-bleached lizard darts past, its shadow merging with petroglyphs of ibexes, etched by hands that knew water as currency. Now here's the quirky bit locals swear, if you lick these walls at dawn, you'll taste residual dampness. Might I suggest antibacterial mouthwash first? Your fingers brush a moss-stained channel, its curve, so precise it hums with pre-industrial geometry. Historians still argue whether those grooves guided water or trapped evil spirits. Wind hisses through a crack overhead, sound bending into something like a flute's neglected note. You catch a whiff of wet clay out of place in this oven-baked gorge. Follow it. The scent leads you to a half-buried cistern mouth, its rim worn smooth by a million thirsty palms. Lean closer. That stale breath rising from the dark, that's 2,000-year-old humidity. How many workers choked on dust, filling this reservoir, only for their great-grandkids to die crossing it during a drought? Your shadow stretches east sharp as a sundial's needle. Time's distorted here. Modern wristwatches glitch near Petra's magnetic rock layers, or so claim overly imaginative tour guides. Reality check. Your phone's still dead from the canyons. Poor signal. The Nabataeans would have laughed at your dependency on satellite maps. They memorized every fissure signaling hidden springs. A dust devil spirals past, its miniature tornado lifting grit into your teeth. Spit, the granules glitter like mica, fool's gold for the parched. Somewhere below, a sandstone pipe creaks, its terracotta joints contracting in the day's last heat. Close your eyes. Imagine this same slope during a storm, water thundering down channels like a god slurping soup. One last absurd detail before we drift deeper. Archaeologists found a clay pipe here, stamped with a toddler's footprint. Theories range from quality control to a kid sneaking into dad's worksite. Your own soles feel heavier now, crushing microfossils into powder with every step. The canyon exhales, a breeze carrying traces of brine from Dead Sea salt caravans. You pause where the path forks, left toward the royal tombs, right descending into the underworld's plumbing. Guess which way the water scrubs. Your palm presses a wall still sweating minerals, slick as chilled marble. That shiver crawling your spine isn't fear. It's the ghost of an engineer who calculated angles so perfect. Monsoon runoff kissed reservoir surfaces without spilling a drop. Stars begin pricking the bruised purple sky, each one reflected in Petra's empty channels. Your throat tightens, an instinctive response to tailies of sandstorms that buried entire maintenance crews. Don't worry, I promised no sudden Jurassic Park raptors. Just the relentless whisper of a desert that outlived its architects. A bat zips past, silent, except for the flutter of membrane wings. Its flight path traces the aqueduct's original route, now collapsed into rubble. You stoop to touch a stone carved with parallel lines, Nabataean for slow flow ahead, or an ancient meme about camel traffic. Either way, the joke's drier than the cisterns. The moon rises, its glow catching on something metallic wedged in a crevice. Bronze tool fragment, Roman nail, doesn't matter. What matters is the goosebumps on your arms, summoned not by cold, but the understanding that every desert breeze once passed through 1,000 human lungs that burned, keeping Petra alive. The heat cracks your lips as you kneel. Rose-red sandstone grinds against your palms. Chisel marks spiderweb across the cliff, each notch a fossilized heartbeat. You smell the ghost of cedar ropes, fibers straining as masons dangled over the gorge. 2,000 years evaporate your fingers, find a groove worn smooth by hands counting prayers between hammer strikes. A donkey brays in your mind. Those stubborn beasts hauled 6-ton blocks up switchbacks. Historians still argue whether the workers were slaves or artisans paid in rainwater. Your shoulders twitch, imagining baskets of rubble swaying overhead. That's a lot of trust in pre-industrial OSHA compliance. Dust films your throat as you squint at the gradient, a 39-degree slope, surviving 8 centuries of flash floods. Modern engineers would weep into their blueprints. A chip of sandstone crumbles. Suddenly, you're tasting metallurgy. Copper saws studded with corundum, that's the mainstream theory. But lean closer, smell that. Burnt sugar and vinegar. Someone replicated the process in 2007, turned out date syrup etches, granite faster than diamonds. Your nail catches on a child's handprint, left in mortar before it hardened. Was it a joke? A blessing? A tally mark? The desert keeps its secrets tighter than a camel trader, haggling over well rights. You press your palm against the ancient outline, fingers overlapping by 3 knuckles. They ate lentils and pomegranates. You've got protein bars melting in your backpack. Progress tastes like raisins and mediocrity. A shadow cuts the rock face, 60 feet of sheer drop where they funneled winter rains. Your stomach lurches with vertigo and awe. Check the numbers. 42 gallons per household per week during peak scarcity. That's 2 modern toilet flushes. Your ears buzz, ancestral voices arguing over rationing protocols. Imagine being the bureaucrat who invented water tickets. The original party pooper. A fracture line glows amber in the late sun. Your pulse sinks to distant echoes. Pickaxes thudding in unison, sparks glancing off iron wedges. 12 men could cut a channel 10 paces long in a day. Try explaining that to your CrossFit coach. Your foot slips on scree. Suddenly, you're cowboy stepping across rubble that predates the Gospels. There's a quirky theory about ibex-urine softening stone. 0 scientific proof, but 90% hilarious. You crouch beside a divot. A rust-colored stain spreads through porous rock. Iron oxide, ancient tool polish, or just 700 years of Bedouins using this spot as a latrine. Wind rubs the canyon walls raw. Your eyes track a lizard darting into a carved niche. Irrigation access point or emergency snake hideout. Bonus points if it's both. You peel a strip of sunburned skin flaking like parchment. Remember that diary fragment about a mason who traded his water ration for fig salve. Priorities straight as a plumb line. Sticky silence presses down the kind that makes archaeologists whisper in journals about cultic hydraulic practices. Your canteen sloshes, 1/3 left. It's enough. Probably. You unscrew the cap, pause, sip. The water's tepid, but your throat doesn't care about dignity. Shadows stretch into violet granite, radiating stored heat like a baker's oven at closing time. You trace a zigzag channel cut to slow runoff. Genius or desperate improvisation. The Nabataeans didn't leave Yelp reviews. Your headlamp flickers on yellow light, licks a fallen cornice. There's a graffiti octopus scratched beneath, squid legs writhing through Nabataean script. Either a bored apprentice or the world's first surrealist. Your knees creak as you stand. The cliff face hums with phantom vibrations. Somewhere below, a nightjar calls. The desert breathes in, holds it, exhales powdered time through your hair. The nightjar's call phrase as you turn. The path splits like a dried up river delta. Left leads to tombs gaping like hungry mouths. Right funnels into the sick, that legendary slit through the mountain. You choose the squeeze, shoulders nearly brushing sandstone, polished smoother than a pharaoh's sarcophagus. Sunlight bleeds, thin here, smeared gold across striated rock. Your boothiel skids on something slick, not water. Just centuries of goat dung compressed into nature's linoleum. Dampness surprises you first, fingers grazing a weeping wall. The Nabataeans knew this secret, carved a water channel knee-high beside the path. One mainstream fact for the textbooks: they moved 11 million gallons yearly through cracks like these. Your nail taps the groove, hollow echoes ping-ponging through the gorge. Someone's cutting onions upwind, or maybe it's the ghost of an engineer crying over modern plumbing. 3 steps farther, the walls narrow until you sidestep like a crab. Your backpack scrapes stone, zipper teeth chattering. Historians still argue whether the sick was natural or widened with spite and copper chisels. Shadows congeal into shapes, a lion's muzzle there, a coiled serpent there. You blink, it's just fractured rock. Or is it? Ghosts get bored too. A droplet smacks your forehead, cold as a tax collector's smile. The ceiling's sweating, or crying, or both. You lick the moisture, no salt, just mineral tang and the faintest hint of cedar resin. Quirky tidbit alert in '98. Someone found ibex bones stuffed with that resin in a fissure. Ritual offering. Ancient snack stash. The desert doesn't do FAQs. Your headlamp dies, left on all night like a rookie. Loser, you fumble for AAA batteries. Plastic crinkles, louder than a folio of papyrus. Dim light reveals a graffiti gallery, Nabataean merchant marks, Roman numerals, a crude carving of a man riding a chicken, classic Bronze Age meme. Your thumb traces the bird's comb rough as stucco. The air thickens, smells like wet sheep and forgotten cellars. You count your paces, 27, 53, 89. The numbers morph into a nursery rhyme. 300 steps later, a shaft of daylight stabs through the roof. Your pupils shrink. There's the treasury's facade peeking through the slit. But no, that's kilometers ahead. Just a trick of the light and sleep deprivation. Breath echoes double yours and someone else's. You freeze turn. Nothing but striated rock smirking at your paranoia. The Nabataeans designed this stretch for acoustics. Whispers could travel half a mile. You test it. Murmur lemons are overrated. The gorge fires back rated, like a sassy Greek chorus. Downward slope now, toes jam against your boots. A pebble clatters into the abyss. No splash follows. Dry as a nun's wine cellar. Your canteen's down to warm backwash, but you pretend it's whiskey. Classy. The water channel deepens, edges scalloped by time's thumb. You imagine torrents roaring through here, flash floods that could skin a camel. Fingers brush something jagged, a fossilized shell embedded in the wall. Sea creature remains in a desert gorge. The Mediterranean once licked these hills before continental drama pushed it away. You pocket the shell contraband, 2,000 years of bad luck. Worth it for the cocktail party trivia. Wind snakes through, carrying a moan that's either distant Bedouin flutes or the sick itself sighing. You lean into the sound, check your phone. No service, just a screenshot of a papyrus fragment about the canyon that drinks moonlight. Poets got paid by the metaphor back then. A crack splinters the path, width of a dagger blade. You hop it, heart hiccuping. 3 more follow. Earth's stretch marks from centuries of heaving. The Nabataeans filled these with lime mortar, mostly. Your heel grinds a patch, powder puffs up like confetti. Happy anniversary. Ancient stress fractures. Dampness returns, this time calf high. Your socks squelch. Didn't it rain 3 weeks back? The channels still funneling droplets into hidden cisterns. Efficiencies, a bitch. Even geology can't kill good engineering. You spot a ceramic shard, blue glaze gleaming like a drunkard's promise. Ottoman era. Crusader. Your expertise ends at Wikipedia depth. The walls flare. Suddenly you're in a pocket of bruised twilight. Carved niches pock the stone once held idols or oil lamps. Your headlamp flicks over soot stains, generations of flames licking the same spot. Warm safety or arsonist's delight. Depends who's holding the torch. Ahead the sick kinks left, throttling light to a trickle. Your shin meets a stubby pillar, guardian of tripped tourists since 312 BCE. Rub the ache, glance down. Faint cup marks dimple the stone. Grain measurements, dice games. Ancient baristas prepping espresso shots. Every archaeologist's guess is a shot in the dark. The drip syncs with your pulse, annoying as a metronome. You focus past it, catch the warble of a blackstart bird. The Nabataeans called them water whisperers, believed their songs could summon rain. Spoiler, they can't. But the melody's nicer than your alarm clock. Cold seeps through your shirt. The gorge exhales night air from its stone lungs. You sip up, fumble the tab. Priorities. Don't freeze. Don't drop the headlamp. Don't ponder the tonnage of rock overhead. Fail on all three. The Nabataeans walked this path, hauling leaky waterskins. You've got moisture-wicking fabric and existential dread. Progress. Debatable. Starving now, you crunch a granola bar smuggled from Jordan's last gas station. Dates and almonds. Same calorie payload as a Nabataean worker's lunch. The wrapper glints, a temporary constellation at your feet. Tomorrow's problem. One final bend, the sick coughs you into a sandstone atrium. Moonlight pools in a bowl-shaped depression. Your shadow stretches 10 paces tall. You sink onto a weathered bench. If Petra had Yelp, this spot would have 5 stars for drama. The drip fades, replaced by a breeze humming through fissures. Close your eyes. The sound becomes a lullaby of chisels and evaporating ambition. The bench is cold, seeps through your jeans, a reminder that stone outlives all cushions. You rise, knees popping like desiccated seed pods, and face the ascent. Stairs coil upward, each tread narrower than a tax collector's conscience. The Nabataeans engineered slopes, so precise, modern engineers geek out. A mere 1-inch drop per 100 feet did the trick. Your palm skims the wall, cement grooves, still hugging the rock 2 millennia later. Mainstream fact time. They mixed volcanic ash with lime for waterproof mortar. Romans copied it, called it pozzolana, and acted like they invented fire. A beetle scuttles over your boot, its carapace iridescent as oil on water. Quirky tidbit. Dig crews found a scarab carving in a tunnel wall last decade. Ritual charm. Bored workers doodle. Either way, It's got better job security than you. The tunnel throat tightens. You suck in your gut and regret that second falafel. Torch soot fingerprints the ceiling. Ancient OSHA violations, fossilized in carbon. Historians still argue whether they used plumb bobs or just eyeballed it with wine-clouded genius. Your headlamp catches a chisel mark 16 degrees off true north. Maybe the guy was new. Maybe he hated his foreman. A gust slaps your face, mildew, and the tang of oxidized copper. Ventilation shafts pierce the mountains somewhere, columns of air older than Latin. You count your breaths, sync them to the drip from a ceiling fistula. 1 every 11 seconds, human metronome. The Nabataeans measured water flow with bowl and channel gauges. Your Fitbit would weep from inadequacy. Light bleeds through a fissure 60 feet up. The sky's a razor-cut ribbon. They built this slope to cheat gravity, runoff, sprinting uphill via optical illusion. You trace the incline, too gradual to see, too steep to ignore. Like middle age, a mosaic of pottery shards winks from the floor, cobalt and ochre confetti, pipe fragments. Some poor sap's dishware shattered during a lunch break tantrum. You kneel, fingertips brushing edges, rounded by time's rough tongue. Ceramic particulate swirls in your headlamp beam. An indoor snow globe sands the kitsch. The tunnel coughs you into a chamber, ribbed with terracotta pipes. Each segment's mouth kisses the next, sealed with palm fiber gaskets. You mutter genius. The vault echoes genius, 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 like a narcissist's TED talk. A rat skeleton decomposes near a joint, tail fused to clay by calcified dribbles. Harsh review of the water quality. Your canteen's down to dregs, warm and metallic as a blood donation. The Nabataeans stored 16 million gallons in hidden cisterns. You can't even pack enough for a hike. A drip lands on your tongue, 8 parts calcium, 2 parts hubris. Tastes like history's sweat. Shadows convulse as your headlamp dies again. You're batting 1,000 tonight. Fingers fumble for spare batteries. Find a lint ball instead. Classy. Darkness hums, the kind that sticks to your eardrums. A distant clink fractures the silence. Wind, a dislodged pebble, or the ghost of a plumber double-checking his seals. You edge forward, hip grazing a pipe wider than a redwood's girth. It's colder here, breath pluming like a speech bubble in a comic strip. The Nabataeans lined their reservoirs with crushed pottery, filtering sediment through ancient Breedatech. Your boothiel grinds a potsherd. The crunch echoes like a bone snap. A sluice gate materializes, rotted wood petrified into jagged teeth. They controlled floods with these, diverting torrents from tombs and taverns alike. You thumb the rusted iron hinge. It flakes like Danish pastry. Breakfast feels like a lifetime ago. Stomach growls. The mountain growls back. Good to know you're not alone. Crouching, you spot finger waves in the mortar, swirls left by some dead artisan's thumb. 8 centuries later, your skin ridges could have matched his. Familial, almost. If you squint, you press your digit into the pattern cold clay kisses back, the desert's weird tinder. A sculpted falcon stares from a niche, one eye chipped away by humidity's knuckles. Water deity, or the supervisor's petty revenge on a stonecutter's masterpiece. Either way, it's seen enough leaks to earn that cynicism. Your reflection warps in its remaining quartz, a funhouse mirror of sunburn and sleep debt. The floor tilts. Suddenly you're marching downhill, thighs screaming. Gravity's a capricious landlord. A pebble skitters ahead, click-clacking like tap shoes on cobblestone. You follow, absurd as a duckling imprinting on a forklift. The air sweetens wet earth and something floral. Jasmine, rose, Nabataean febres. Light blooms ahead, not daylight. Phosphorescent moss clings to the ceiling in ragged constellations. Your headlamp dies for good. Now you're spelunking by bioluminescence. The Nabataeans never mentions this in their brochures. You brush the moss, glitter spores puff into the void. Inhaling feels like a gamble. A final bend, the tunnel vomits you onto a ledge overlooking the wadi. Moonlight silver plates the valley, cistern mouths dotting the slopes like moon craters. Your shadow stretches 30 feet tall enough to tickle the ruins' chins. Somewhere below, a goat bleats. Unimpressed by your ascent, you unzip your pack, find a melted protein bar. Feast like a king, or at least a slightly nauseous surf. Wind riffles your hair, carrying the snick of chisels from an empty workshop. Real or imagined? The line blurs here. You lick grit from your lips, taste the echo of 1,000 vanished monsoon seasons. The mountain exhales its breath heavy with the memory of rain. Moonlight gutters through the clouds. Your shadow shrinks to a puddle at your feet. The valley exhales. Its breath carries the musk of parched clay. You kneel, palms flat, on a stone worn smooth as a worry stone. Your thumb finds grooves, letters carved by someone who believed words could summon storms. The inscription swims in your headlamp's dying beam, a plea to Al-Azza for mercy from the skies. Mainstream fact time. They channeled 40 inches of annual runoff into reservoirs that could hydrate a metropolis. Modern Phoenix gets half that and still needs 3 Starbucks per block. A scorpion skitters over the text, its claws tap dancing across life-giving showers like a tiny heckler. You peel a curl of lichen from the stone brittle as ancient parchment. Quirky tidbit, archaeologists found a child's terracotta whistle in a cistern last monsoon season. Toy or rain summoning tool, either way, it outlived its maker's diapers. The wind knots your hair, a dry shampoo of sand and ghosts. Thunder mutters beyond the hills, a bass line without a song. Historians still argue whether the Nabataeans fell to Roman taxes or their own aqueducts clogging with hubris. Your canteen gurgles, a sad punchline to their plight. You unscrew the cap, toast the engraver's ghost. The last sip tastes like battery acid and optimism. Dust devils spin in the wadi, phantom waterspouts teasing the dead riverbeds. You picture engineers staring at cloudless skies, their slide rules useless against the sun's smirk. A cracked bowl lies half buried nearby, its glaze blistered by centuries of thirst. You flip it over, count the drainage holes. Ancient colander or serial killer's trophy. The desert keeps its secrets better than a therapist. Your nail traces a spiral petroglyph, part calendar, part rain dance diagram. They tracked storms using sandstone markers on the high mesas, ancestral weather channel graphics. A lizard charges across the design, its shadow warping the spiral into a Mobius strip of existential panic. You empathize. The first raindrop smacks your forehead, cold as a missed opportunity. A second plinks into the bowl, a metallic ping echoing through the gorge. Your laugh startles a bat, its wings clapping like sarcastic applause. 37 months since Petra's last proper downpour, and you're here for the encore. Irony hugs you like a cheap suit. Clouds rip open, rain drills into dust with the urgency of a prison break. Gully washers, gutter stormers, heaven's fire sale. You stand, arms spread like a conflicted messiah, as water sluices down the inscription. The letters shimmer, Al-Azza's name dissolving into runoff that smells like struck flint. Dry riverbeds twitch, pebbles rattling in their sockets as silt turns to slurry. You kick off your soaked boots, dig toes into mud that hasn't clenched a footprint in decades. It grips like a codependent lover. Somewhere downstream, a cistern gargles to life after a 20-generation nap. Lightning carves the sky, a dendrite of instant enlightenment. Your teeth buzz with ozone, the desert's first espresso shot in centuries. The bowl overflows, water spilling through those careful drainage holes, quenching nothing, saving no one. A perfect museum diorama of hope. You sit, denim suctioned to your legs like a bad life choice. Rain streams off your chin, rinsing salt from 3 days' sweat. The Nabataeans would have sacrificed a goat for this downpour. You sacrifice a peanut butter Cliff Bar, its wrapper ballooning into the night like a synthetic jellyfish. Dawn comes grudgingly, pink as a hangover. The valley steams, rock pours, gasping through the miasma. You wring out your socks over the inscription. Water pools in the U of Al-Azza, a vowel-shaped grave. The scorpion floats belly up, its posture critique enough. By noon, the wadi's bones reemerge. Cracks yawn wider, new canyons in miniature. You press a palm to hot stone, vapor rising between your fingers. The mountain drinks itself sober. Somewhere an aqueduct sighs, its arteries clogged with the silt of interrupted dreams. Cool air licks your neck. A cavern yawns, its belly swollen with stolen storms. You step into the cistern's throat, limestone teeth parting for your trespass. The ceiling drips, each plink multiplying into a chorus of wet ghosts. Experts say the great cistern held 2 million gallons, enough for 3 moons of drought. Your headlamp catches a carved ibex on the wall, its horns chipped by some bored guardian's knife. Voices linger, not echoes, but the phantom rustle of tally sticks counting what's lost. A groove snakes across the floor, a spillway worn smooth by apologies to the desert. You crouch, fingernail testing the slope, 1 degree off, and the whole system becomes a sarcophagus. Mainstream fact: drop. They mixed animal hair into plaster to prevent cracks. Your apartment's landlord could learn a thing or three about maintenance. In 1998, diggers found a sandstone slab marked with tic-tac-toe grids, shift break distractions, or ritual symbols. The wind whistles through a fracture, a detuned flute playing Despacito. You hum along because why not? The acoustics here could make a vacuum cleaner sound profound. Your boot nudges a shard terracotta, curved like a sleeping eyelid. Part of a pipe, a jar, someone's attempt at ancient Tupperware. Scholars still argue whether these chambers hosted rituals or just stored water and the occasional drunk engineer. You press your ear to the wall. A century's worth of slurps and gulps vibrate your jawbone. The cold gets greedy, creeping under your collar like a pickpocket with frostbitten fingers. A bat swoops, its shadow merging with a painted antelope on the ceiling. Art or accident? The Nabataeans loved their ambiguous decor. You shine light on a corner, revealing handprints smaller than your palm. A child's, an apprentice's. The wall holds its breath. Water licks your boots, a puddle reflecting Bronze Age engineering and your haggard eyeliner. You imagine laborers here, swearing in tongues lost to time, slapping mortar like spackled hope. The air tastes of trapped rain and the musk of unpaid overtime. A drip hits your forehead, the cistern's leaky memory forcing participation. A cleft in the rock gapes, a natural funnel feeding the reservoir. You wriggle in, shoulders scraping reminders of last year's gym abandonment. 3 steps down, the temperature drops 20 degrees. Your phone dies, a sacrificial victim to the chamber's anti-modernity field. Somewhere above, tourists snap selfies where camels once spat. Here, silence curdles into something thicker. Your canteen's empty, a hollow punchline. You lick condensation off the wall, patina flavored. Hints of pigeon shit, nutrients, included at no extra charge. Footprints fossilized in mud catch your eye, sandals wide as salad plates. You place your sneaker inside the outline, a time traveler's mismatched dance partner. The rock whines, a subsidence groan or indigestion from swallowing too many storms. You back away, suddenly aware of 2 million gallons suspended by calculus and prayer. Light bleeds through the entrance, noon's glare diluted to a timid soup. You emerge squinting, chest tight, from the weight of uncollapsed history. A beetle marches past, carrying a pebble twice its size. You nod, respect paid between infrastructure nerds. The cistern exhales behind you, a breath that strokes the back of your knees. Your socks squelch, a reminder that desert dryness always wins in the end. Somewhere underground, Alaza coughs up a laugh, throat raw from 8 centuries of irony. You kneel beside a clay tablet, its surface etched with slopes that look like cardiogram readouts. The scribe's stylus must have trembled here, a jagged line betraying thirst or a sandstorm's cough. Sun bakes your neck, same as it did when these maps were fresh. Archaeologists found 19 tablets like this, all crosshatched with symbols even Rosetta Stone Duolingo couldn't decode. A lizard scurries over your boot, dragging its shadow across a cluster of asterisks. X marks the spot for groundwater or ancient Starbucks locations. Your finger hovers over a smudge. Someone spilled carob coffee here 8 centuries ago. The stain outlived dynasties. Wind flips the tablet's corner, revealing a grid of squares on the reverse. Not latitude lines, tic-tac-toe boards. Scholars insist their calculations. Your guessing bathroom breaks got creative. 16 games later, Nabataean OSHA remains undefeated. You squint at a faded inscription. Southeast catchment. 7 pools, 2 false springs. Translation: we tried, but the desert's a dick. The real kicker, they mapped gradients using nothing but knotted ropes and existential dread. Modern engineers use lasers, less poetic, fewer snakebites. A red dot catches your eye, small as a pomegranate seed. Ground-penetrating radar recently proved it marks a seepage tunnel even locals forgot. Historians still argue whether these asterisks denote sacred sites or just where the foreman kept his moonshine stash. Your money's on booze. You unfold a replica map, papyrus crinkling like an old man's chuckle. Contour lines ripple, an autopsy of the land's thirsty arteries. Each valley's labeled with symbols resembling chickens, coincidence, or encrypted praise for the region's best biryani spots. The debate rages on Twitter. Dust motes swirl, settling into the grooves of a drainage blueprint. Why's the scale in camel paces? Hint, it's not. They used dactyls' finger widths. Imagine ordering a sofa online with that unit. Chaos. A smeared numeral catches the light, XLII. 42. Not the meaning of life, just the number of jars needed to prime the Connaught pipeline. You smirk. It is the meaning of life here. Shadows stretch your water bottle, sweats onto the map's edge. The ink bleeds, replicating 800 years of humidity damage in 3 seconds. Art forgers hate this one trick. Your thumb traces a zigzagging aqueduct route. Same path you took avoiding tourist groups this morning. The Nabataeans drew escape routes from flash floods. You empathize, dodging selfie sticks. A chip in the tablet reveals straw fibers, reinforcement trick borrowed from brickmakers. The ancient version of hitting Control plus S every 5 minutes. Your last unsaved PowerPoint shudders in solidarity. Pigeons erupt from a cliffside, their wings mirroring the map's feathered quill strokes. Coincidence, or proof Nabataean architects snorted way too much myrrh incense? The jury's out till someone finds a ceremonial snuff tube. You spot a tiny handprint in the corner, child-sized, frozen in dried clay. Apprentice or vandal. Either way, their guild fines probably funded the next reservoir. A tour group's laughter echoes, Their guide claims this map locates the Queen's lost bathhouse. You know better, it's a drainage plan for the royal wine cellar. Priorities. The sun dips, your shadow melts into the tablet's weathered lines. Two worlds overlap, your Nikes soul deep in dust, their sandals worn thin by equations. Somewhere, a scribe sneezes, ghost pepper pollen, or cosmic irony. You'll never know. Wind snatches the map. It flaps like a wounded heron before you grab it. Safe, for now. The desert licks its lips, patient as tax auditors. You fold the centuries shut, tucking history back into your satchel. Tomorrow's problem. Tonight, peanut butter sandwiches and Googling how to erase carob stains. Your knife scrapes mud from a joint in the pipework, copper flaking green as old nickels. Each scratch reveals fingerprints pressed into solder 8 centuries ago. A workman's thumb here, a smudge of desperation, or lunch, archaeology's Rorschach test. You press your ear to the channel, hearing nothing but your own pulse. Silence terrifies you more than drips. The Nabataeans knew it too, trained crews to walk the aqueducts nightly, palms flat against stone. Leak detection by braille, their manuals survive. Fragmentary clay tablets titled spells to placate thirsty walls. Instructional poetry or literal magic. Depends who's funding the dig. A chip of terracotta crumbles under your nail. They lined these channels with lime plaster, mixed with goat hair for flexibility. State of the art in 50 BCE. Still holds better than your cousin's DIY shower towel job. Blink gold winks from a crack, not treasure beeswax and resin oozing where two pipes kiss. Ancient Flex seal. You sniff, it still carries a tang of juniper. Historians debate whether they added it for waterproofing or to repel gin. Both, probably, the desert's equal opportunity haunting grounds. Your flashlight catches a handprint on the ceiling, palm smaller than yours, fingers splayed in wet clay. Child labor or community right. Records are mute, but the print's depth suggests someone pushed hard, begging the mountain to listen. A bronze wedge glints in your dust pile. They used these to calibrate pipe angles, inserted into joints, until friction sang the right note. Plumbing as percussion ensemble. Tap a valve, it pings B-flat. The entire cistern humming like a drunk didgeridoo. You trace a groove worn into the floor, centuries of feet pacing the same 3 meters. Guard post or panic room. Scrolls mention water singers who chanted levels into jars. Imagine the gig half plumber, half opera ghost. Laughter trickles down the tunnel, your own, bouncing off walls. The manual warned about this. Solitude makes travelers chatty. You count tools allowed to stay grounded. Trowel, brush, pick, curse jar. A mosaic lizard stares from the wall tile, eyes following your moves. Good luck charm or prehistoric security cam. You toss a pebble at it. The desert throws no stars back. Suddenly, a hiss. Not snake nor pipe, wind squeezing through a fissure. Your torch flame gutters. All texts agree. A single crack could drain a reservoir in days. Panic tastes like old pennies. You jam putty into the gap, palm grinding palm, until the scream of air stops. The repair's ugly, but functional. Like using duct tape on a Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Somewhere, a Nabataean foreman facepalms. Dust motes swirl where the breach healed. Copper never rests. It'll knit itself to the patch over decades. Metallurgists call it cold welding. You call it a lazy craftsman's best friend. Shadows deepen. The manuals advised against night shifts, too easy to misread cracks as whispers. You stay anyway. That's the thing about guarding drips. The job outlives the shifts. Bats flutter past, wings brushing the channel's curve. Their math's impeccable, navigating without touching walls. The Nabataeans copied this, designing spillways that guided water by air pressure alone. No moving parts, just physics and prayers. Your canteen sloshes, announcing its betrayal. 20 ounces left, enough to mimic tomorrow's leak check or today's dignity. You choose dignity. It burns warmer going down. A scarab scuttles over your boot, its shell iridescent as oil on water. Bad omen or honorary inspector. You salute it. Better safe. The desert's HR department lacks a complaints form. Moonlight filters through a ventilation shaft. Shadows align, forming a sundial's inverse on the floor. Clever bastards. Even their cracks kept time. You find a hairline fracture, thin as a spider's sigh. Touch it, the stone flakes away, revealing quartz crystals beneath. Geological glitter bomb. Engineers hate this one trick. A drip lands on your neck. Not failure, condensation. The tunnels sweat when humidity spikes. You catch a bead on your tongue, same metallic twang Roman coins had. Water remembers what we bury. Your phone dies, the charger buried under snack wrappers. Dark narrows, each breath echoes louder. This is why they assigned 2 guards per shift. Budget cuts hit hard. Footsteps approach. Yours from an hour ago, looping back through the acoustics. Ancient security system still works. Your heartbeat's arrhythmia joins THE Chinese letter symphony. So much for OSHA regulations. Dawn glows through the vents, gilding a line of inscriptions. Prayers to Al-Azah for strength, complaints about shift rotations. A doodle of a grumpy camel. The more things change, you emerge squinting sunrise stinging like antiseptic. Night's paranoia melts, until you spot the puddle, a perfect circle beneath the repaired crack. Condensation or condemnation. The desert smirks, offering no audits. Pigeons burst from a cliff, their wings clapping like a slow drip. You count them, all present. For now, your boot scuffs a protruding pipe, terracotta, gleaming dully under sunrise. These coiled beneath Petra, like a ceramic nervous system, arteries of baked Nile mud, fired to outlast dynasties. Mainstream academia loves their uniformity, standardized diameters, matching surviving levee tablets. But touch the lip of this one, your thumb finds grooves. Finger fluting for grip. Defensive scarring from a poorly stacked kiln. The desert archives withhold receipts. You crouch, peering into a pipe's jagged mouth. Patina clings inside, streaky green as lichen on wet bark. Testing reveals some pipes glazed with animal fat, lipid traces matching bronze-age tanneries. Food safety nightmare, perhaps, but no cholera outbreaks in the tax records. A trade-off, salmonella, or sand-induced kidney stones. A shard stabs your knee pad, ancient quality control failure. Turn it over. Faint ridges spiral the inner surface. Archaeoengineers posit helical grooves, sped water flow, prevented sediment buildup. You drag a fingernail down the corkscrew texture. Centuries of calcification fill the gaps, time's plaster smoothing genius into guesswork. Night clings to the tunnel ahead. Your headlamp catches pottery stamps, maker's marks pressed into wet clay. One shows a scorpion circled by 7 dots. Workshop emblem or Mesopotamian Yelp review. Historians still argue whether the checkerboard patterns etched into junctions were flow regulators or board games for board maintenance crews. Something crunches underfoot, crushed ceramics piled knee-deep, maintenance dump or ritual deposit. Scroll fragments found nearby list 300 vessels offered to Dashara after a pipeline collapse. Imagine the ceremony, priests chanting, workers lobbing leaky pipes into a pit like javelins. OSHA would've had questions TM. Your light glints off a pipe bend. Pressurized water once ricocheted here at a 25-degree angle. They buried these elbows deeper, protected against camels tripping over physics. A flash of turquoise catches your eye, mosaic remnants under dust. Instructions for repair crews. Ancient wet floor sign. You inhale. Air still smells mineral damp. Engineers marvel at the Nabataeans' grasp of hydraulic siphonage, terracotta veins moving water uphill. Magic. Nah, just slave labor and slope calculations carved into temple ceilings. Tourism boards omit that part. Clay whispers under your palms, sun-warmed despite the hour. Thermal regulation. These pipes breathed, expanding under noon's blaze, contracting at night without cracking. Modern PVC cracks within decades. Terracotta lasted millennia. Progress debatable. A whistle pierces the silence, wind through a broken conduit, same pitch as those bone flutes in the museum. Coincidence? Please. The Nabataeans tuned their infrastructure like lutes. A child's sandal imprint stares up from dried muck. Size 3. 8th grade field trip to inspect filters. Apprenticeships started early. City planners couldn't risk thirsty toddlers inheriting the aqueducts. Your canteen's last sip tastes of plastic and poor planning. The Nabataeans drank from gourds, easier to patch. You eye a pipe joint, could probably funnel morning dew into your bottle. Desperation's halfway to innovation. Mud bricks flank the pipeline, emergency repair stash, or failed DIY project. Stamp on one, it holds. They mixed in crushed pottery for grit. Recycling program or spite against bad craftsmanship. A beetle trundles by, trapped in a clay funnel meant for leaf debris. First century Roombas. You free it. Not today, tiny janitor. Footprints reappear your own from yesterday, preserved in alkali dust. Time folds. A worker's ghost might walked this loop, checking for stress fractures, while humming hymns to water gods. You hum the chorus of Desert Rose instead. Sting would approve. Dawn's glare sharpens. Sunlight stabs through a crack in the vaulted ceiling. Your shadow stretches long enough to touch the pipe's far end. For a breath, you're spliced into the system, a fleshy valve in the clay machine. Something clicks, your boot kicks a stone. Roll it over. Dice. Not Roman, edges rounded by water, not palms. Gambling with a foreman's patience. Loser cleans silt traps for a week. The pipe ahead bulges, clay pregnant with millennia of quiet. Your pulse thrums. Burst risk. Petrifaction. No, just a master potter's pride. Thick walls for high pressure stretches. You knock, it answers with a hollow gong. Sudden thirst claws your throat. The Nabataeans called it pipe fever, phantom dehydration from tunnel immersion. Cures the same as ever. Keep moving. Keep sweating. Pretend your body's a self-cleaning cistern. Wind rises, howling down the channel like a widow's lament. You hunch against the gale. 800 years ago, someone's cloak flaps in this same gust. Two shadows weathering the same sigh. Time's a cheap parlor trick here. Your nail picks at a clay seal. Someone crammed palm fronds into this crack during the last drought. Stopgap fix. The lining still holds. Blame the goat hair mortar. Blame the desert's low standards. Moonflower vines choke a shattered pipe, roots probing for phantom moisture. You snap one, sap bleeds milky white. Thirstier than camel breath. A shout echoes your own voice, ricocheting from the morning's first tourist group. The manual warned about acoustic ghosts. You answer with a cough. Etiquette demands deniability. Lightning cracks the horizon dry storm. Your tongue tingles. Rain's a rumor here, but the pipes shiver in anticipation. Or is that your knees? The script demands progress. You inch forward, boots scuffing the eternal clay, as terracotta hums its dirt-layered lullaby. The moon swims in the reservoir, its reflection fragmented by cracks in the stone basin. You kneel, palms flat on the rim, feeling vibrations from long-drained water. Astronomy. Nuts love this part. The Nabataeans aligned their catchments with Deneb's summer rise. Mainstream museums display their star charts, precise azimuths etched into limestone. But you notice something the brass plaques ignore: scorch marks. Faint, radial, like a child's drawing of sunbeams, charcoaled around the basin's edge. Ritual fires, torch holders, maybe a dead serious game of don't step in the magma. Your boot grinds a pebble. The sound echoes like a dropped codex. Above, the night sky's a cracked mirror, constellations mapped onto fissures in the vaulted ceiling. Draco coils around a leak stain. Orion aims his bow at a calcified drip track. Did they use starlight as an engineering blueprint? or just really hated blank ceilings. A bat squeaks. Your headlamp catches glyphs between the stars, crude camels and ibex scratched into the stone, graffiti or holy text. One figure pours water from a jug toward Sirius. You mimic the pose with your canteen. 3 drops hit dust. Performance art flops without an audience. The reservoir's floor yawns below, terraced like a sunken wedding cake. Each tier once held 900 cubic meters. Now it cradles shadows and a single beer can. Modernity's offering to the thirst gods. You count the ceiling cracks, allegedly matching desert waterways on moonless nights. One fracture branches like the sick gorge. Another mimics Wadi Musa's dry bed. Coincidence requires less paperwork. A chill creeps up your neck. Thermal imaging shows this chamber stays 5 degrees cooler than surrounding tunnels. They designed it, somehow, to sweat condensation into the reservoir. Genius or happy accident. Your sweat drips anyway, cheap tribute. Moonlight glints off something half buried. Digging reveals a bronze disc, holes punched in a spiral pattern. Star map, grain sifter. Historians still argue whether these were surveying tools or the ancient version of disco balls. Wind moans through a ventilation shaft, a discordant harmony with the bat's chirps. You hum a scale, the chamber answers with a faint F-sharp. Intentional acoustics. Unlikely, but throw that fact into a documentary, ratings gold. A chisel lies abandoned near the overflow channel. Its handles wrapped in rags, sweat-stiffened linen from a garment last washed when Caesar still breathed. Touch the grip, your calluses meet ghost calluses. Union break cut short by an invading empire. Your shadow stretches across the basin, a giant smothering the moon's liquid twin. Psychological warfare against the night, or just bad luck with the headlamp angle. 3 date pits nestle in a corner, carbon dated to the Byzantine tax hikes. Someone's snack during a quota crisis. You spit your own pit, it rolls into the void. Echoes for days, traitorous fruit. A seepage stain on the wall resembles a dancing girl. The Nabataeans had a thing for hydrocephalic art. You snap a photo, Instagram it as Petra's first TikTok influencer. #thirsty. Waves of vertigo hit, leaning over the edge does that. Workers dangled here on hemp ropes, scraping algae without harnesses. OSHA pamphlets flutter in your mind, non-binding across millennia. 5 feathers lodge in a crack. Owl, falcon, the ancients posted avian sentries to track sediment flow. Poop levels indicated pipe blockages. Early warning system with bonus pest control. Your water bottle sweats. Humidity clings like a needy ghost. Condensation beads roll down ancient channels, still functional after 1,500 dry years. Modern dehumidifiers sulk in comparison. A scarab beetle trundles across the reservoir floor, its shell iridescent under moonlight. You half expect it to drag a tiny aqueduct blueprint. Instead, it veers toward your leftover trail mix. Priorities. The moon slips behind a cleft, plunging the chamber into temporary darkness. Your retina burns with afterimages, constellations reversed, cracks glowing like neon veins. Flashbacks to college laser tag, same strategic panic. Light returns pale and apologetic. Dust, motes swirl where water once churned. Close your eyes. The roar of sluice gates floods your imagination. Open them, silence, and a beetle nibbling your shoelace. Your time's up. The script demands forward motion. But the reservoir holds you like a cupped hand. One last breath, air tastes of wet stone and unspoken epilogues. The moon drifts, patient knowing you'll circle back when the story thirsts. Sunlight guts the reservoir sharp as a broken bottle. You blink, dawn licks the eastern cliffs with the enthusiasm of a feral kitten. That moonlit serenity, gone. Now the basin's just a gravel pit with commitment issues. Your canteen's already sweating, 14 ounces shrinking by the second. Condensation beads slide down its sides, tiny deserters fleeing the heat. You sketch equations in the dust, evaporation, rates versus ancient population charts. Nerdy Sudoku. The Nabataeans knew, carved channels narrow here, wider there, to balance flow against sun greed. Mainstream scholars say they calculated water loss using reed gauges and shadow clocks, but your boot nudges a worn stone slab, crude fractions chiseled beside a palm tree glyph. Math as graffiti. Thermal shock hits when you touch the north wall, sun-baked on one side, cellar cool on the other. Temperature differentials fueled nighttime condensation traps. They stole dew like bandits. You lick a pebble salt and lingering damp. Tastes like larceny. A melted wax lump clings to a ledge, reddish streaks hinting at cinnamon. Fringe theorists claim they mixed spices into reservoir sealant. Antimicrobial properties. Some blog insists. You sniff it, smells like grandma's pantry and wishful thinking. Wind riffles your notes. One page clings to a thorn bush, a sketch of curved channels drawn from aerial surveys. Modern engineers drool over these gradients, but your thumb traces a chisel groove, uneven, almost sloppy. Historians still argue whether the slope discrepancies are errors or intentional turbulence designs. You drop a pebble into a dry channel, it bounces like popcorn. Maybe imperfection was the point. Your shadow stretches across the basin, distorted into a lanky giant strangling a miniature canal system. Drama queen of the dunes. 3 ceramic shards protrude from the sand. You piece together half an ostrakhan tax records. 14 jars owed from the house of the dripping wall. Penalty for unauthorized siphoning. The ink's faded, anger permanent. A lizard darts over your calculations. Its path, a living line graph. X-axis, shade. Y-axis, survival. You envy the simplicity. The textbook in your pack mocks you. Chapter 6's evaporation formulas glow like witchcraft. Delta multiplied by despair divided by hope. Or was it surface area? Sun-warped wood litters the canal's edge, remnants of a sluice gate. Touch the grain, splinters hitchhike under your skin. Minute wooden rebellions. You find a sandstone chip marked with 2 parallel grooves. Hydraulic engineer's notation, or a kid's doodle of ladders to nowhere. Sweat pools in your collarbone, a personal saline reservoir. 8% humidity today, your body's losing the arithmetic. A line of ants march toward a cracked amphora, their abdomen full of stolen moisture. Beside them, your own water footprint yawns, a brontosaurus in hiking boots. 3 vultures circle. Your canteens now half empty and half full. Philosophy dies here. The debate clings. Did they foresee shortages through math? Or bone-deep dread? You smear dust over your equations, erasing the modern hubris. Shade offers temporary asylum. Slide down the wall, granite teeth bite your spine. Close your eyes, scrape of sand, rustle of papyrus. Ghost scribes tallying what's lost, each evaporation mark a grave for someone's thirst. Wind scritches a lullaby against the reservoir's bones. You drift until a pebble pings your temple. Time's up. The desert reclaims its narrative. You stand brushing off millennia and poor life choices. Westward, where the channels tighten like a noose, your shadow leads, already bargaining with mirages. Your shoulders remember before you do. 50 generations of women's labor pressed into your trapezius muscles. Those clay jars weren't kidding around. Try hauling 40 pounds uphill with the sun auditing your sweat glands. Archaeologists found intact amphorae in these hills, their curved bellies still stained with mineral deposits. Heavy little bastards. The path underfoot isn't dirt, it's crushed sandstone. Grit grinds between your sandal straps like nature's foot scrub. 10 steps in your left thigh muscles start humming show tunes. Each vase wobbles, sloshing your imaginary cargo. You catch yourself leaning forward, compensating for phantom weight. Muscle memory's a bitch with tenure. Over there, 3 thumbprints dimple a pottery shard. Some potter's signature. Nope, forensic analysis says those grooves match adolescent hands. Child labor or apprenticeships. Historians still argue whether teenagers hauled half-loads or just had terrible work-life balance. Salt crystallizes on your forearm, personal margarita rim. Wipe it. The sting says you're alive. Nabataean linen wrappings might. Helped folded cloth pads for balancing vessels. A fringe theory claims they soaked them in olive oil for grip. You try it with your bandana. Now everything smells like a salad spinner. Step. Breathe. Step. The rhythm syncs with your pulse. Your shadow does the work you refuse to, stretching thin as it lugs nothing up the slope. Cheater. That dip in the trail isn't erosion. It's a fossilized footprint, hundreds passing daily, each left knee digging deeper into the earth. You match your boot to the depression, modern arches coddled by memory foam. Pathetic. Someone scraped a doodle into the rock wall, a stick figure drop-kicking a water jug, ancient workplace humor, or philosophical commentary. Your canteen feels judged. Your hip bone protests, the body's invoice for bipedalism. Nabataean women likely carried vessels on their right side. Skeletal remains show asymmetric spinal wear. You switch shoulders. Your left one files a formal complaint. 5 wild almonds roll underfoot. Trapjaw ants swarm the cracked shells. Protein snacks for carriers. Or just nature's caltrops. You pocket 2, tasting bitter resolve and questionable life choices. A broken amphora handle mocks your grip strength. Its curve fits your palm like a handshake from the past. Archaeometallurgists found copper residue in similar artifacts, maybe repairs with metal staples. You squint, no handy Home Depot for Bronze Age plumbers. Sunlight bleaches the trail white, your pupils contract to pinholes. Cleopatra allegedly trekked these routes disguised as a merchant. She definitely would have demanded a pulley system. Or a camel. Sweat soaks your shirt's waistband, evaporative cooling, minus the actual cool part. The linen sticks, an adhesive lesson in humility. Somewhere, your childhood self laughs while guzzling a Slurpee. 3 vultures switch back overhead, feathered HR reps clocking your productivity. You flash them a thumbs up. They don't applaud. A fossilized fig leaf curls at the path's edge, veins still shouting photosynthesis. Xeriscaping before it was trendy. Your waterlogged socks disagree with nature's hustle. The summit's just a myth until suddenly it's underfoot. Wind slaps your face, a standing ovation of hot air. Below, the city's bones shimmer, a Lego set melted by God's hairdryer. Your knuckles unclench pale crescents where the jar's ghost gripped too tight. Some engineer's daughter probably rolled her eyes at his efficiency improvements. Legacies, a pyramid scheme, every generation adds another stone. You pocket a pebble chalky white from centuries of dust and foot traffic. It whispers nothing useful. Just wait. You wipe grit from your palm. Each layer clings like the desert's own fingerprints. The dust isn't just dirt. It's 8 centuries of evaporating ambition. Geologists analyzed similar sediment near the Dead Sea, proving decades-long droughts that starved these canals. Your nail splits a stratum, coarse tan grit gives way to finer gray. Seasons fossilized. Rain once fell here enough to baptize camels. Now the wind steals your breath, a pickpocket with perfect timing. That darker layer, volcanic ash from Yemen's eruption in 680 CE. A rogue snow globe shaken over continents. You spit, it tastes like a campfire's ghost. Someone left a snail shell in the muck, calcified defiance. Malacologists, these as drought specialists, creatures that sleep for years between drinks. You hold it to your ear, no ocean, just your own pulse-mocking optimism. 3 ibex hoofprints, fossilized in mud, each cleft sharper than a tax collector's smile. Hunters followed water here, or did water follow hunters? Archaeologists found arrowheads in dry channels, some still tipped with gazelle collagen. Your stomach growls, empathy's a twisted mechanic. That black vein isn't sediment, it's charcoal. Caravan camps lit night fires here, acacia, wood crackling under storytellers' lies. A fringe theory claims they burned scorpion venom to hallucinate monsoon clouds. You sniff the ash, regret it immediately. Your thumb rubs a clay shard rougher than a stonemason's humor. Pottery styles changed during dry spells, fewer decorations, thicker walls. Desperation measured in millimeters. You imagine a potter's eyeroll orders for basic survival gray instead of saffron swirls. A beetle carcass gleams in the dust, iridescent wing cases fossilized mid-crawl. Entomologists argue whether these jeweled pests predated the Nabataeans or just outlasted them. You flick it, watch it soar like a pharaoh's misplaced confidence. Lichen paints the rock face, slow motion graffiti. Certain species only grow after 50 rainless years. Nature's passive-aggressive calendar. You peel a flake, the underside smells like a library basement. Knowledge as mildew. Your canteen sweats. Condensation mocks the Dead Sea's shrinking shores. Historians still argue whether the Nabataeans engineered their downfall, overbuilding cisterns until the land choked. You drink feeling complicit. Termite tunnels vein the sandstone, tiny megalopolises abandoned mid-construction. X-ray scans show their nests mirrored human waterways, parallel civilizations built on scarcity. You snap a mud tube. 600 years of labor becomes confetti. Pollen grains cling to your sleeve, olive and barley DNA trapped in silica. Palynologists reconstructed entire harvests from these specks, a buffet for microscopes. Your lunch pita suddenly feels like a tribute. That white crust isn't salt, it's gypsum. They mixed it with animal hair for waterproofing reservoirs. Your boots crunch it now, death, by 1,000 chem class flashbacks. You find a date pit chewed open by teeth stronger than hope. Radiocarbon dating places it right before the empire's collapse. Final snack before the credits rolled. Your molars test its petrified resolve, they lose. Light shifts, the sediment blushes pink. Sunset or heat stroke, either way, the desert insists on aesthetics. You pocket a pebble striped like old prison uniforms, guilty of existing in a thirsty world. Wind carves new layers as you kneel. History's a buffet where every guest brings their own erosion. Your shadow digs alongside you. 2 archivists sifting through the remains of rains resume. Your fingers sink into the slurry, cold mud from the wadi's armpit mixed with palm frond pulp. The Nabataeans called it hamasa, a gritty porridge of sand, ash, and goat hair. Experts think they sourced gypsum from 50 miles east, hauled by donkeys with existential patience. You need the muck. Its texture lands somewhere between pottery clay and a toddler's tantrum. Sunlight bakes the mixture faster than doubt. Archaeologists found identical sealant in hubris reservoirs, their version of duct tape. A fringe parchment claims they added crushed juniper berries to please the rain gods. Your batch smells like a swamp's laundry hamper. No divinity here. The trick's in the layers. Slap it too thin, and the desert licks through. Too thick, and it cracks like a dropped amphora. Your palms mimic olden motions, swirling, pressing, smoothing. Someone's calloused hands once did this daily, probably while cursing their foreman's ancestors. That black strand isn't hair, it's a date palm fiber. They used what thrived in drought, vegetation too stubborn to die. Your thumb finds a thorn time-traveling spite from a plant that refused to be useful. Wind scatters your ash pile, ghosts rehearsing for bigger chaos. They burned olive pits for this carbon mesh to trap liquid. Historians still argue whether every family knew the recipe, or if it died with the guild's last mason. You stir harder, vengeance against scholarly uncertainty. The mixture bulges, blister-like bubbles screaming for release. Pop 1. It exhales 8 centuries of trapped humidity. A Nabataean OSHA violation waiting to happen. Your forearm hairs stand up, cementing a personal grudge against porous stone. Night chills the mud into something resembling competence. You press a palmful against test bricks, watch water pool, and retreat. Success feels stickier than expected. Some engineers' ghost nods, or maybe it's just your neck cramping. Termites investigate your work, six-legged critics tasting for weakness. Their ancestors outlived empires by refusing to care about human deadlines. You flick an intruder, it sails into the dark, ambition unshaken. Moonlight reveals hairline cracks, microscopic canyons mocking your effort. The solution: more goat hair. Always more goat hair. You pluck a strand from your sleeve, contamination as tradition. Drizzle arrives, rare as a kind tax collector. Your sealant holds, mostly. One leak persists, a tiny rebellion in the lower left. The Nabataeans would have patched it with fig resin and shame. You settle for duct tape, progress dressed in heresy. By dawn, the mud's baked armor hard. Tap it, a dull thunk echoes through unseen channels. Water shivers in its new cage, a prisoner resigned to its fate. You arch your spine, every vertebra clicking like an abacus, tallying survival. Your boots crunch away, each step a potential future fissure. Behind you, the patch stares at the sky, waiting for clouds too lazy to appear. Somewhere under Petra, a sigh ripples through ancient pipes. The alchemist's mud still holds, for now. The moon clots in the western sky, a yellowed fingernail scraping desert haze. You catch the flute before seeing its player, 3 notes snagging your sleeve like thorns. It's not a melody, it's Morse code for cobblestones. Archaeologists found bone flutes near Petra's reservoirs. Their finger holes match Nabataean water measurement rods. Coincidence? The night shift never sleeps. Damp air carries the tune through conduit cracks, a security system for mortar. Each trill vibrates loose grit from joints. You imagine a watchman's hourly ritual 8 centuries ago, lips raw from playing D sharp into the void. His job description: human tuner for thirsty architecture. Historians still argue whether the songs strengthened plaster or just drowned out the sound of crumbling walls. You follow the sound, sandals skidding on dew-slick steps. The flutist's shadow flits ahead, always rounding the next corner. His footprints glint wet clay, pressed into grooves. They mixed sheep fat with ochre for night visibility markers. Practical magic, ancient shift workers, highlighter pen. The melody dips, a low C that buzzes your molars. Somewhere, a dislodged pebble plinks into water. Maintenance via acoustics, Stone Age sonar. You lean over a cistern's lip, ripples fingerprint the surface. 8 handspans down the flicker of a terracotta pipe. Your hips bump a stone bench, its surface pocked with game boards. Workers scratched mancala holes into every flat spot. Hydraulic engineers bedding olive pits between shifts. A fringe theory claims they tracked water distribution through gambling scores. You roll a pebble into a cup-shaped dent. It clatters like a dropped dime. The flute's now a raspy wheeze, player's lungs losing steam. Moonlight exposes his perch, a fidgeting silhouette on a broken aqueduct. He's not Nabataean, just a Bedouin teen hired by the Antiquities Ministry. His playlist, Bluetooth earbuds under a polyester headscarf. The ancient song died with the last pipe layer modernity's cover band plays on. You pocket a shard of pottery. Its curve fits your palm like a missing jigsaw piece. 1600 years ago, someone dropped this midsip. A work break interrupted. The clay's still bitter with resin wine sealant. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth, time-traveling thirst. Dawn licks the eastern cliffs, the watchman's shift, ending with a squeaky reed note. His ancestor's flute hit a knife compartment. Music box meets Swiss Army knife. You've seen the museum specimen carved from a desert fox's femur. Tonight's replica, 3D printed plastic. Progress smells like melted Legos. Cicadas rev their engines, the desert's alarm clock. Your spine remembers the flute's rhythm, vertebrae humming like a struck tuning fork. Somewhere below, water whispers through patched channels. The walls hold. The song fades. Another night's erosion postponed. Dawn bleeds into the canyon. Your shadow stretches long as the dead figs, roots clawing stone. The tree's skeleton juts skyward, gnarled fingers, frozen mid-reach toward vanished water. You kick a shriveled pod. It skitters like a dried cockroach. 93 petrified figs found in Petra's drains, seeds that outlasted dynasties. Roots snake through a cracked channel their bark, fused with centuries of mineral sludge. You peel back a splinter. The wood grain feels like Braille recounting droughts. Bedouin guides swear these trees tap aquifers in their sleep. Phantom limbs drinking from underground ghosts. A root bulges around a terracotta pipe, nature's tourniquet on man-made veins. Historians still argue whether Nabataeans planted figs as leak detectors or just enjoyed the shade. Your fingernail scrapes calcified sap. It flakes like parched skin. Sunlight glints on something wedged in the trunk. A bronze axe head mid-chop. Some poor soul tried severing the roots before the desert one. The metals crusted green. Patina, spelling out 8 centuries of regret. You press your ear to the wood. Silence. Then, a faint creak. Heat expanding resistant cellulose. Or the TREES, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The sound syncs with your pulse, botanical heartbeat, mocking human schedules. Wind whistles through root cavities, a haunting nursery rhyme in Phrygian mode. Local legends claim the ancients buried stillborns beneath fruit trees. Their cries turned xylem into sap. You pocket a root sliver. Its fracture smells like burnt caramel and abandonment. The trunk split reveals a surprises. Crushed pottery shards glitter where bark split. Emergency repair attempt circa 732 CE. You count 17 ceramic fragments, mosaic of a plumber's desperation. One piece sports a thumbprint, yours fits the indent like a backwards handshake. Ants march through the root maze, their caravan, avoiding a sticky amber pool, resin secretions from the tree's final defense mechanism. Now fossilized grief, trapping Bronze Age insects. You recognize a honey ant worker, abdomen swollen with amber instead of nectar. Shade creeps over the channel. You realize the dead tree still tells time. Its shadow points to a stone marker etched with Nabataean numerals. Sundial for the irrigation shift change. Or just poetic coincidence, the root underfoot cracks, a sound sharper than a snapped wishbone. You exhale breath fogging a patch of quartz. For half a heartbeat, the stone sweats. Mirage or mineral condensation. The Bedouin kid from last night appears, offers a plastic water bottle. You decline, suddenly superstitious about drinking near these thirsty ghosts. His sneaker kicks the trunk. A hollow thump echoes down the channel. My grandfather says they weep during earthquakes. He shrugs. The roots shiver, though there's no wind. Your neck hairs rise, seismographic intuition, or sleep deprivation. Something glitters in the root ball, a Murano glass bead wedged between fibers. Venetian trade item from the Mamluk era. Or modern tourist litter, its cobalt glitter mocks the desert's dust palette. You leave it dangling, a Christmas ornament, on the wrong timeline. The sun climbs, heat bakes, resinous smells from the carcass. Your canteen water tastes like liquid pottery. That psychology trick works. Drinking from clay improves the flavor. Or maybe you're just becoming part of the infrastructure. A root suddenly snaps overhead. You duck as desiccated wood rains down. The Bedouin laughs, tosses a fragment into the abyss. 5 seconds pass before the clatter. Still echoey down there, he grins. You wonder how many repair teams that pit swallowed. By noon, the tree seems smaller, heat haze shrinking its defiance. You trace a root back to its source. It ends abruptly at a smooth stone. Chisel marks suggest a deliberate severing. Mutual surrender between masons and nature. The rock feels warmer than it should. Somewhere downhill, a tour group's laughter bubbles up, water fountain joy in a dead tree's cemetery. Their guide explains the Nabataean aqueducts. You know 3 facts in his spiel are wrong, but let the myths flow. Tourism's a different kind of preservation. The Bedouin teen produces a switchblade, carves his initials into the trunk. Polymer handle, no ancestral bone here. You click your tongue, he grins wider. They'll dig this up in 25-23. Think they'll blame us. As shadows stretch westward, you spot lone green shoot beneath a root, fig seedling, surviving on channel condensation. 2 leaves unfurl like tiny fists. You empty your canteen over it, water vanishing into parched soil before the 3rd drop. The desert licks its lips. The canteen's hollow clank against stone echoes, a pricey donation to dirt. Your tongue maps cracked lips, calculating sweat loss versus dignity. 2 goats for 4 amphorae, 3rd century rate, chiseled into that market wall near the treasury. You picture haggling with a merchant, fingers flicking through evaporation rates like a sous chef seasoning stew. A boy's laughter ricochets off canyon walls, high-pitched counterpoint to your mental arithmetic. His sandals slap cracked terracotta channels, each slap costing half an ounce of water in sweat. Historians still argue whether Nabataeans used brass tokens for water credits or just eyeballed the jugs. You side-eye a beetle dragging a dew droplet, free market purist. Shadows pool at your feet, liquid timekeeping. That surviving ledger from Avdat mentions a drought loan, 30 jars repaid in kid goats after rains returned. Your stomach growls, sympathy pang for a herder's empty udders. Ever tried milking a dehydrated goat? They glare like you're stealing their last will to live. Something glints in the boy's hand, a Roman denarius repurposed as a gaming piece. He tosses it heads for water rights, tails for fig cakes. Great-grandfather played this with soldiers, he boasts. The coin lands in dust, sigma side up. You don't mention it's a pagan symbol. Let the dead keep their games. Wind gusts through a broken pipe, a sickly wheeze. Your finger traces groove marks in a cistern wall. Ancient hash marks tallying rations. 17 lines, then a deeper gouge. Bad harvest month, or the day some accountant snapped. You inhale residue, hints of vinegar, and crushed coriander, preservation tactics etched into stone nostrils. The boy scrapes at mortar, chalky crumbs cling to his lashes. Bedouin kids still play banker and beggar here, trading pebbles for palm shade passes. His sister once tried bottling scorpion venom as currency. Teenage entrepreneur meets bronze age Venmo. You pocket a pebble emergency bargaining chip. Sunlight stabs through a fracture. Your shadow becomes a sundial's gnomon. Temperature spikes warp the air, a heat haze stock exchange. 3 sheep for a midnight rain dance, 5 chickens per whispered prayer to Baal-Hammon. The math blurs devotions, interest rates compound differently. A goat bleats downhill, its throaty wah slicing through centuries. That scroll from Mamshit details a water theft trial. Defendant fined 12 lambs and a copper spoon. You imagine the spoon's weight, utensil turned truth serum. Modern lawyers would bill 6 goats an hour, plus parchment fees. The boy plucks a thorn from his heel, blood beads like overpriced wine. His grin says he'll trade it for your sunscreen. Tough negotiator, syringe of hemoglobin for SPF 30. You counteroffer with half a protein bar, calorie-backed currency. He spits, economies crumble, dust devils swirl, phantom traders carrying invisible goods. Your canteen's sweat-damp label peels, hydration as performance art. Archaeologists found amphory stamped with goat hoof marks, maybe quality assurance, or ancient Yelp reviews. Our Marora wine pairs well with despair. The boy kicks a stone into a well. It vanishes without applause. You count the silence, 11 seconds to echo, 11 gallons lost to seepage per day in Hegra's reservoirs. Engineers scribbled the math in soot on tunnel walls. Their charcoal desperation still smudges your fingertips. Shade pools at the Six Mouth, liquid asset redistributing itself. You kneel where a market stall once stood, palm pressed to sun-bleached ledger grooves, a child's sandal imprint, fossils nearby, size matching the laugh, still haunting your ears. Commodity brokers never logged that particular deficit. Evening breeze carries cumin and myrrh aromas from a caravan ghost's lunch sack. Your stomach negotiates anew 2 hunger pangs for 1 sip. The market rates brutal today. Inflation's a hungry jackal. That haggling mantra surfaces, water shrinks, thirst grows, but figs are just delayed water. The boys doubled over now, giggling at a dung beetle struggles. Its prize roll topples into a crack, ancient parallel to modern crypto crashes. You resist the metaphor. Some jokes write themselves. His laughter crescendos, a debt forgiven, a tariff erased. Fingers brush a wall where names were once scored traders, thieves, thirsty poets. One scratched phrase survives. The river is a lie that moves. You wonder if it's philosophy or a bad Yelp review for the local aqueduct. Moonrise converts dust to powdered silver, the desert's central bank vault. Your shadow owes interest on borrowed light. That Sardinian merchant's diary surfaces in memory, traded blue glass beads for a night's sip, proof even mirages have liquidity. The boy offers a rusted camel bell, clapper stolen by time. For your thoughts, he smirks, toll booth operator of the mind. You toss him a pistachio, hard currency. He bites down. The crack echoes a ledger snapping shut. Somewhere beneath you, 8 meters of compacted time. A cracked jug spills its dry confession. The Nabataeans never found the algebra that balances thirst. Neither will you. But the kids now trading moonlight reflections for pocket lint. Free markets alive, just parched. Your fingernail carves angles in the dust, 3 parts vertical to 1 horizontal. The slope mocks you, too steep for seepage, too shallow for scour. 15th century manuscripts mention Arab engineers using sheep gut as leveling tools. Your laser-measured brain scoffs at the barbarism. Yet here you are, eyeballing gradients like a drunk Pythagoras. A chip of plaster cracks underfoot. Its jagged edge mirrors the canyon's profile. Textbook hydraulics demands a 1-degree descent per 100 cubits, but Nabataean math dances to different drums. They curved channels against intuition, letting centripetal force bully water uphill. You sketch a spiral Archimedes sulking in his bath. Dust motes swirl into Fibonacci sequences, nature's passive-aggressive proof of concept. That scroll from Aboda lists slope ratios as thumb widths per stride, precise as a chef's pinch of salt. Your retinas burn recalculating, converting camel paces to metric, like some sleep-deprived tax auditor. Shade slices across your diagram, a sundial's verdict on your poor life choices. Historians still argue whether these inclines were calculated or cosmic luck. You side-eye a lizard doing push-ups on a stone-tenured professor of applied geometry. Wind hisses through a cracked conduit, playing the desert like a broken flute. Your palm gauges the tilt of a worn trough, calluses recognizing what textbooks won't teach. 4 fingers under the edge, a 5-degree deficit would have caused silt nightmares for 3 generations. The boy from earlier kicks your dust triangle, instantaneous peer review. Grandfather said slopes sing, he declares, squatting to draw wavy lines. His finger etches a stave, notes floating above like dehydrated muses. You hum a baseline concrete evidence grad school ruined you. A spiderweb glistens in a channel corner. Silk Road meets civil engineering. Radiocarbon-dated silt deposits prove they flushed pipes with vinegar. Roman plumbers nodding in distant respect. Your canteen gurgles acidic agreement. Last night's questionable lentil stew. Your shadow stretches into a protractor, knee bent at precisely 72 degrees. Optimal for minimizing erosion, maximizing flow. Coincidence? The Nabataeans left no blueprints, just channels smoother than a politician's lie. You trace a molar-shaped niche, someone's workspace, or a mouse's pantheon. Heat shimmers morph into tessellations, hexagons dueling parallelograms. That niche theory about Pythagorean cults here crumbles like stale baklava. No secret scrolls under altars, just rat bones and a child's leather ball. The desert archives aren't generous with their secrets. The boy slaps a flat stone, makeshift chalkboard, trade you angles for shadows. He grins, pointing at your compass. His palm hides a scarab shell, ancient LinkedIn profile for ditch diggers. You offer a stick of gum, resin-activated currency. Negotiations stall. A centipede spirals down a fissure, living illustration of a logarithmic curve. You count its legs, 33 tiny pistons churning. Nabataean apprentices probably did similar drills, obsessive recounts of chisel strokes, until the rocks sang. Your own apprenticeship involved highlighters and a crippling caffeine dependency. Twilight bleeds across your diagrams, dusk sifting equations through its teeth. That museum diorama in Amman pops to mind, mannequins laying pipes with comically oversized plumb bobs. You mutter a theorem, verb tense caught between past and present. The desert yawns, unimpressed by your existential verb forms. The boy fashions a sundial from his sandal strap as gnomon. 20 minutes till scorpion hour, he warns, tapping numerals only he sees. His ancestors' likely timed water releases the same way horology meets horticulture. Your smartwatch buzzes, a low battery judgment. Stars prickle awake, celestial graph paper. You connect Orpheus, Lyra, to a cistern's coordinates, astronomy, as GIS software. 2 terracotta pipe fragments nest in your pack, edges chipped by someone's ennui 8 centuries back. Their curvature still hugs the thumbprint of a nameless foreman. Moonlight shears the canyon sharp as a surveyor's thesis. Your triangle drawings grow feet walking into the dark like ambitious trapezoids. The Nabataeans understood angles as dialogues, stone negotiating with liquid, gravity flirting with inertia. You pocket a pebble-tiny Rosetta Stone of applied math. Distant jackals howl, wolfish derivatives calculated to destabilize your focus. That half-eaten date in your pocket crystallizes, nature's reminder that even sugars obey slopes. The boy snores against a boulder, cheeks smudged with your failed equations. Youth's calculus, energy spent minus curiosity's infinite credit line. Your final sketch mirrors a satellite photo. You once saw Petra's veins mapped in Adobe Illustrator. But here, the math breathes dust, accepting your flawed approximations, like a grandmother tolerating off-key hymns. Someday, another fool will trace your angles, and the rock will whisper, "Close enough." Your palms meet seep-cooled limestone, wet with the memory of seasonal rains. The oath grooves still there, 1,000-year-old indentations shaped by calloused hands. 5 finger-widths deep, rough as a stonemason's laugh. You press harder, trying to smell the myrrh resin they supposedly smeared on initiation days. All you get is geology's musk, damp mineral breath. A wall mosaic shows plumber's patron god, fish-tailed wrench in one hand, clay pipe in the other. His eyes follow you like a skeptical foreman. Mainstream guides rarely mention this. Nabataean water workers worshipped their own deities, separate from royal temples. You salute him with your water bottle, modern idolatry in polyethylene. Cracks spiderweb beneath your knees, each fracture a tally of dry seasons survived. Legend claims apprentices drank from ceremonial cisterns, petitioning the earth to stay hydrated. You spot chalice marks in the stone, or maybe just mortar pits. Hard to tell when history blurs into occupational folklore. Your thumb finds a groove, some workers' habitual resting place during smoke breaks. 800 years later, the stone remembers the shape of his ennui. Nearby, a smear of ochre paint clings, faded numerals tracking pipe diameters. You cross-reference it with Germanicus' treatise on Near Eastern aqueducts, surprisingly chill material for bedtime reading. Wind whistles through a broken sluice gate, playing a Gregorian chant in F sharp. Historians still argue whether these artisans were literate or just freakishly good mimics of Greek blueprints. You trace a chiseled slogan, should have stayed in carpentry, maybe. A child's sandal print fossilizes beside the oath stone, toe marks splayed like a starfish. Laborers brought families here whole dynasties of hydraulic OCD. Your boot sole overlaps the impression. DNA exchange across millennia. The stone stays silent keeper of too many ghosts. Your canteen drips onto worn carvings, each droplet retracing old water routes. They engineered these channels to last 3 centuries minimum. Many still work, petulant middle fingers to modern planned obsolescence. A beetle struggles up the dampened path, living reenactment of gravity's ancient betrayal. You root for it anyway. Sunset gilds a copper plaque drilled into bedrock. Employees must abstain from garlic before shifts, it says. Or maybe that's your sleep-deprived hieroglyphics take. The real translation's duller. Maintenance schedules and penalties for silt negligence. You miss your garlic bread lunch with alarming intensity. Shadows pool in tool marks, adzes, and dolabra blades left fractal signatures. One groove spirals inexplicably doodled during lunch breaks or sacred geometry. Your phone's flashlight reveals microscopic quartz veins, glittering like Lowe's clearance aisle rejects. A pottery shard jabs your knee, glazed with someone's dinner leavings. Radiocarbon dating would pinpoint their last meal, lentil stew, flatbread, regret. You pocketed future use problem. 5 paces left, a rusted pry bar half fused to the floor. Off-brand Excalibur for the chronically underappreciated. Moonlight resurrects faded handprints on the wall, dozens overlapping in a chain of grip strength. Palmistry for infrastructure nerds. This one shows a long lifeline cut short by a collapsed aqueduct, your own lifelines smudged with sunscreen and paranoia. The oath ritual required reciting numbers while submerged, or so that dodgy Alexandrian scroll claims. You mutter prime numerals into your scarf, math as incantation. Nearby, a cistern gurgles, either approval or indigestion. Dawn exposes your blasphemy, modern synthetics clashing with Nabataean tech. Your waterproof boots squelch, storm drain discharge, mocks their $250 price tag. A tour group's laughter echoes above, clueless as Visigoths at a villa party. You chalk equations on a dry patch, temporary tattoos for thirsty stone. That niche under the spillway hides someone's secret stash, ceramic tokens numbered 1 through 6, gambling dice, or shift rotation tallies. You roll one, lands on letter 3E1, the ancient symbol for stop asking stupid questions. Your finger traces a cursive scrawl, Greek letters flirt with Nabataean script, an overseer's complaint about lazy millennials, or a love note to the reservoir keeper. Context crumbles like wet sugar. A drip lands on your notebook. Blue ink bleeds into a tiny aquifer map. The Nabataeans used hydraulic concrete 8 centuries before Rome popularized it, goat hair, and volcanic ash for tensile spite. Your pen explodes, cheap biro homage to their engineering grit. You exit backward, knees protesting in iambic pentameter. The oath stone glints under retreating sunlight, its pact fulfilled through your blisters. Somewhere, a ghost foreman ticks a checklist. No leaks detected. No monuments built, just water moving as it should. Your thumb hovers above the clay, a single whorled ridge preserved in terracotta. The potter's fingerprint outlived dynasties, their skin oil baked into pipe lining 8 centuries ago. You press your own against it, modern oils meeting ancient sweat, and wonder if they hated this job as much as you despise your commute. Dried reeds protrude from the pipe's mouth, remnants of sieve filters documented in Pliny's journals. Mainstream scholars love that fact. Nabataeans filtering silt through bundled plants long before cotton became trendy. You pluck a brittle stalk, nature's version of a Brita filter, and it crumbles like overbaked fortune cookies. Sunlight glints off mica flecks in the clay. Someone mixed this mud with volcanic ash, Roman concrete's bastard cousin, before shaping it around a dung-fired mold. Your guidebook calls it brilliant pyrotechnic engineering. You call it taking playing with mud way too seriously. A chip reveals 20 layers of glaze, each firing a battle against the desert's thirst. Conservators found date resin in similar pipes, emergency sealant for wealthy clients. You sniff the fracture honey. Pine tar, the ghost of a craftsman's lunch break. Your phone flashlight exposes graffiti beneath the pipe, crude camels etched by bored apprentices. One dromedary sports a builder's hat, another vomits water. Historians still argue whether these were jokes or stress relief for tradesmen paid in barley. You snap a photo, instant meme potential. The thumbprint center feels warmer sunlit or some residual kiln magic. Workers believed sealing pipes with body traces warded off sand demons. Your dermatologist would have billed them for clogged pores. You dig out hand sanitizer, modern exorcism in aloe vera gel. A broken jar nearby spills petrified dates, its handle stamped with 3 tiny dots. Excavators found similar marks on sewer pipes, Pottery Guild QC stamps, or ancient Yelp reviews. You rate this artifact 4, 8 stars, points deducted for structural integrity. Dust motes swirl where your breath disturbs the air. 800 years of undisturbed silence, broken by your Zara brand wheezing. Restoration teams use this space for acoustic mapping. Whispers travel 30 meters through these ducts. You test it, boss makes $1, and await echoes. None come. Glue residue clings to your palm, adhesive made from boiled hooves mentioned in Dead Sea Scrolls. Your AirPods slip out, twin betrayals to paleochemistry. A draft whistles through the pipe orchestra D minor. If you're tone deaf, ears guess right. Beethoven's Fifth for infrastructure nerds. 2 grooves flank the thumbprint, guide marks for threading hemp gaskets. Someone scored them fast, chisel skids visible at the endpoints. You trace the jagged path, burnt fingertips, hangover tremors, Mondays transcending temporal boundaries. Lichen creeps across the pipes, underside, bioluminescent blue under your UV pen. Modern ecologists study these growths, living maps of ancient water pH levels. You resist licking it, both for science and your obituary's dignity. Shadows compress as noon kills the light, sudden blindness in a space that's never seen darkness. Workers timed repairs by rooftop sundials, their chisels synced to the sun's grudging arc. You check your Apple Watch, 45 minutes till the gift shop closes. Priorities. A hairline crack snakes toward the thumbprint, arrested by a bronze staple hammered in centuries ago. Emergency fixes haven't changed, only the duct tape aesthetics. You jiggle the metal it holds. Some apprentices' shaky hands, redeemed by stubbornness. Dried mud flakes off as you brush the pipe's belly, revealing a child's handprint smaller than your smartphone. Family workshops blurred work, and childcare toddlers helping between naps. You touch the tiny fingers, parental pride fossilized alongside labor. The thumbprint's owner likely died at 35. Arthritis and silicosis per common trade hazards. Their remains probably fed a rose-red cliff's foundations. You flex your own creaking joints, office ergonomics doing a different kind of damage. Sunset bleeds through a crack in the cistern wall, liquid amber, pooling in the thumbprint's ridges. Climate-controlled museums can't replicate this light, the desert's final kiss on its child's creation. You step back, letting centuries-old craftsmanship bask in its last, unobserved moment. The ledger's spine cracks like a loaf of stale bread, yellowed papyrus, exhaling 8 centuries of accountant sweat. You squint at columns stained indigo and rust, each entry a name punished for hoarding or praised for sharing. The ink's iron gall bite still lingers. Medieval whiteout couldn't hide these sins. Your sleeve catches on a thorny glyph, the taxman's shorthand for water thief. 10 names bear that mark, all women from the Alwara clan. Historians found Byzantine records confirming their exile, sentenced to maintain aqueducts during scorpion mating season. You smirk, ancient HR head flare. Numbers swarm like ants, 30 jars here, 15 there. Fractions scored in base 12. Your brain fogs. Math without zeros feels like riding a unicycle. A scribble in the margin saves you. Khalid owes 5. Paid 3, may his cisterns crack. Passive aggression survives ink better than empires. Moonlight reveals papyrus layers, reused sheets cheaper than fresh stock. Beneath a widow's debt, faded text peeks through. Synesius to his brother, send more honey for ink stabilization. Even taxmen had stationary budgets. You sniff the page, 20 centuries later. A whiff of clover clings. Dried date syrup globs dot the ledger. Emergency adhesive when wax ran low. Your finger sticks to an entry titled Midian Well Dispute, the numbers smudged into Rorschach blots. Interpretations vary. Was it 7 goats owed, or 7 lashes administered? Scrolls scholars still wrestle over the punctuation's wrath. A child's doodle crawls up the margin, stick figures carrying water jugs twice their size. Carbon dating says 9th century, added during Abbasid reclamation efforts. You trace their oversized heads, proof that procrastination outlives calendars. The worst offenders get illustrated. A man named Harith, drawn with donkey ears. His crime: diverting a public channel to irrigate his mistress's olive grove. Poetic justice: the mistress married his brother, the olives failed, and the grove's now a parking lot. Your phone's flashlight catches a hidden column, names written in squid ink lemon juice. Invisible until now. Acidic sweat from your palms unveils them, 14 generous donors with royal connections. Historians still argue whether this was early whistleblowing or ancient nepotism. Either way, their cisterns stayed full. A beetle carcass crumbles between pages, tax season casualty or vengeful filing. You brush off its legs, iridescent shell matching the ledger's mold patterns. Nature's audit trail. Each entry ends with a stamp: carved amethyst for nobles, fired clay for peasants. One bureaucrat got creative, pressed a date pit into wax. His supervisor's reprimand survives. Unprofessional. Use approved seals or face cistern duty. The pit remains petrified middle finger to administrative drones. A drop of your sweat lands on Harith's entry, blurring donkey into genius. You dab it too late. Revisionist history in real time. Midnight wind flips pages to the ledger's core, a map drawn on gazelle hide. Wadi muses, waterways snake like veins. Red dots mark households that paid extra for priority access. Modern engineers confirmed the red pigment contains ground lapis, reserved for elite contracts. Your apartment's water bill suddenly feels fair. Between trade quotas, someone practiced their poetry, couplets about almond blossoms and leaky spouts. Meters terrible, metaphors weaker than 3rd Dynasty mortar. You imagine the taxman's boss scribbling stick to numbers in angry ochre. The last page holds a pressed flower, safflower petals bleached by time. Maidens braided them into tax collectors' beards during spring tributes. Symbol of fertility. Sarcastic comment on bureaucrats' virility. Academic papers lean both ways. Peer review gets spicy. Dawn stains the parchment gold as you close the ledger, its secrets heavier than the stones they taxed. Somewhere beneath Petra, a drained reservoir echoes, the sound of dust settling on ledgers never balanced. The dream comes sharp as a broken seal. Your mind floods with visions of Petra collapsing in reverse. Stones levitate, crumbling facades reassembling as your pulse thrums like a failed sluice gate. A mosaic of Nabataean blueprints floats overhead, every canal and cistern glowing like neon veins. Your fingers graze a design labeled Abodis's Folly, a reservoir system too ambitious even for rain-rich years. Dust chokes your throat as the vision shifts workers. Shouts echo through a half-built tunnel. An architect argues with a foreman, hands slicing air as he defends steeper gradients. The math demands it. He barks, voice cracking like sun-baked clay. 12 hours later, his fingerprint still stains the disputation tablet, pressed too hard in the heat of pride. You wake clutching a pillow, fabric damp, with phantom reservoir water. Your apartment AC whirs like ancient bellows, far less effective. Through the window, city lights blink like misaligned constellation maps. History laughs softly. Every civilization thinks it's the exception to erosion. Coffee steams as you revisit Abodis's blueprints, digital scans now, but the hubris remains palpable. His system relied on intercepting flash floods, those capricious desert tantrums. Mainstream records confirm it failed within 2 monsoons, silt-clogging channels meant to sustain 10,000. The engineer vanished from carvings, erased smoother than a tax defaulter's name. A footnote snags you. Workers reportedly mixed egg whites into the mortar. Quirky, but lab tests show it boosted water resistance by 17%. You picture hen coops beside quarries, overseers bartering for albumin, while roosters crowed over calculus. Mid-mug sip, you spot a hidden layer in the scan, a lighter etching beneath the main design. Etched letters spell Yomkin, perhaps in Arabic, beside a safety overflow channel. Too faint for chisels, historians still argue whether it's a later addition or the architect's buried doubt. Either way, the channel was never dug. Your desk lamp flickers, bulb dying like a guttered oil lamp. Shadows warp the blueprint into a ribcage, stone arteries clamped around emptiness. You shiver, air conditioning now feels like a breeze through the 6 narrows. A notification pings your landlord's email about pipe maintenance. Modern humans still battle entropy with rubber seals and PDF manuals. You reply with a meme, Sisyphus pushing a water heater. The scent sound echoes like a dropped amphora. Rain taps the window, real, not dreamt. City drains gurgle approval. Somewhere in Petra, Abodis's ghost counts each droplet, calculating ratios of repentance to redemption. You let the rhythm lull you, a metronome ticking between past and present failures. Dawn finds you slumped over the desk, cheek imprinted with keyboard letters. The blueprints glow on screen, eternal as the stars that once guided Nabataean surveyors. A notification buzzes your phone at 10%. You plug it in, watching the battery icon fill like a miniature cistern. Progress, maybe. Or just another leak to manage. Last thought before sleep drags you under. Even archived regrets need rain to echo. Sunlight slices through your blinds. Another day of the deserts. Slow thirst. The phone battery glows full. A modern cistern mocking Nabataean ingenuity. Outside, kids shriek, their laughter sharp, as pickaxes on sandstone. You follow the sound, a cracked irrigation ditch, now hosting an inch-deep empire. 3 girls crouch their hands, cupping murky water like it's electrum. A clay bowl serves as a royal harbor, broken pottery shards transformed into ships. Historians confirm Nabataean children played flood games, building miniature aqueducts in the shadow of real ones. Here, ancient meets Walmart inflatable. A pink plastic dolphin breaches beside a terracotta dhow. One girl licks her finger, drawing a map on concrete. The Euphrates flows here. She declares her brother counters with a bottle cap Nile. Their debate falters as water retreats, evaporation claiming kingdoms faster than any Saracen raid. A teenager on a balcony hollers, "Don't waste it." His accent's Boston, his scowl pure Bedouin. The girls roll eyes, universal language of teens versus toddlers. They pour their sea into a soda bottle, its label boasting 85 FL Oz like a pharaoh's decree. You spot something, a tiny bronze frog half buried in mud. Quirky tidbit. Excavators found similar miniatures. Some think they were whistles. Others argue votive offerings. Pocketing it feels wrong, so you toss it back. The splash echoes like a dropped drachma, a wish unspent. Their game resumes, this time with an algae fleet. Armadas bob in broth-green waves until a toddler's foot becomes Godzilla. Historians still argue whether ancient water toys taught engineering or just mocked scarcity. Either way, the lesson floats. Empires shrink faster when you're not looking. Shouts erupt from a window, Asia. Upstairs now, the sea vanishes, poured back into a mop bucket's grudging embrace. Plastic dolphin stands abandoned, its smile fixed. You check your phone, 45% battery. The screen's blue light feels colder now, electricity's borrowed rain. Somewhere, Abodis's ghost counts both drops and kilowatts, his abacus clicking like an unimpressed cricket. You walk home, each step a minor quake in the children's Atlantis. The frog winks up from the mud, still keeping its wet secrets. Traffic drones replace the giggles. An ice cream truck plays Four Elise like a lullaby. Your keys jingle the sound of pipes rattling in a Roman bathhouse. Inside, you fill a glass. Tap water's chlorine bite sharper than a critic's quill. Gulping it, you feel the weight liquid measured in grocery bills and aquifer debts. Night falls, the street lamp outside flickers like a dying torch. You sketch the day's scene, clay boats, frog idle, evaporating ambition. A red pen circles the bronze amphibian, your margin note. Tiny god of mischief. The laptop fan whirs, electronics begging for their own aqueducts. Rain starts again, this syncopated ditty on the AC unit, too light to matter, just the sky teasing its own scarcity. You press your palm to the glass, cool condensation, mirroring a child's water-ringed harbor. Somewhere, Asia sleeps, her fingers twitching like she's still steering ships. Bed beckons, sheets crisp as papyrus. The frog's twin grins from your nightstand, a souvenir bought online, but heavy with ghosts. You switch off the lamp, darkness spills like ink from a shattered jar. Last thought, maybe tomorrow the ditch will flood, just enough for a 5-star naval review. Or maybe the dolphin will finally sail west, outpacing both time and tipping points. Your fingertip grazes a fissure in the wall. Its edge crumbles like stale cake. A low thrum vibrates through the rock, somewhere between a beehive's drone and a widow's hummed lament. You press your ear to the crack. Cold sandstone kisses your skin. The sound sharpens a chorus of grit shifting, mortar exhaling, time itself grinding its teeth. 3 centuries back, no. 4 Nabataean engineers mixed lime paste with crushed pottery shards. Their mortar still holds mostly. You chip a fleck, it snaps clean, smelling like wet chalk and stubbornness. Quirky detail. Some walls here contain goat hair. Archaeologists debate whether it strengthened the blend or just caught in the trowels. A pebble skitters down, plink-plinking through hidden channels. Your neck prickles, the kind of dread you get when elevator cables creak. Above, a crack forks like lightning frozen mid-strike. Historians still argue whether key collapses were accidents or deliberate sabotage to reroute aqueducts. You step back, heels sinking into dust that once held a reservoir spillover. The wall whispers again, this time in a language of pops and groans. Your flashlight beam quivers, battery dying, as it spotlights stress fractures. One stone bulges outward, a pregnant pause in the masonry. You mimic the engineer's last-ditch fix, wedging a flat rock under the culprit like a dental splint. Silence. Then, a hiss. Fine sand leaks from the crack's seam, an hourglass flipped by unseen hands. You count seconds between each granular sigh. 8, 12, 3. No pattern, just the desert, exhaling through stone lungs. A bead of sweat rolls down your temple, salty as the Dead Sea's phantom spray. Footsteps echo. A caretaker shuffles by with a clipboard and a thermos. They sing before they fall. He mutters, strolling off like a prophet who's overdrawn on mystique. You snort until the wall answers with a basso grumble. Your phone buzzes, a weather alert flashing 0% chance of rain. The screen's glare paints the fracture in sci-fi blue, suddenly theatrical, suddenly urgent. You dig out your water bottle, half full, tepid. A childish impulse takes hold. You pour a thin stream into the crack. The mortar gulps it greedily, then screeches like a stepped-on cat. 2 doves explode from a crevice, wingbeats frantic as ricocheting bullets. Your laugh comes out shaky, a joke about paying the water bill too late. Dust motes swirl in your flashlight's beam, each particle a tiny SOS. That bulging stone now wears a shadow darker than the rest. You recall an old scroll's claim. Nabataean masons buried bronze bells in critical walls. The theory goes, if a bell rang, crews would rush to repair the breach. No one's ever found one. Your ear returns to the stone. The hum's changed higher pitch, like a tea kettle left too long. You imagine the wall's final words, a rant about ungrateful descendants, a plea for retirement, a punchline lost to dialect. A crumb of mortar lands on your tongue chalky, with an aftertaste of burnt almonds. Shouts erupt down the corridor, a tour guide herding teenagers. Their laughter bounces off the trembling wall. You want to yell, to shush them like a librarian facing vandals. Instead, you press both palms to the stone, a ridiculous gesture, half comfort, half intercept. The caretaker reappears, now holding a steel support bracket. Move, he orders, all poetry gone from his voice. You obey, the wall's vibrations thrumming through your shoes as you retreat. He slams the metal into place, the clang echoing like a gong. The humming stops, silence again, thicker now, as if the building's holding its breath. You glance at the thermos at his feet, Arab coffee steaming in the dry air. He follows your gaze. 6th century fix, he says, tapping the bracket. New problem, same tools. As you walk away, a sound follows, not a groan, but a chuckle. Or maybe it's just the wind nursing its dry joke through the cracks. You check your phone, still no rain forecast. But your palm stays pressed to your ear, still feeling the wall's final tremor. Preserved like a voicemail nobody answered. The exit looms, a rectangle of white heat. You glance back once. The caretaker's singing now, a folk tune about olives and earthquakes. His voice slithers through the cracks, propping up the stones one note at a time. The caretaker's melody fades. Your shoes scuff over a charcoal streak smeared across flagstones. A gallery of scribbles emerges, angles scraped into walls by someone's frantic nails. You crouch, damp sweat from centuries ago stains the rock, blurring numbers into Rorschach blots. Heat warps the air, the engineer's rage feels fresh. His ruler demanded a steeper gradient, eager to funnel water faster to new palace baths, but sharper slopes risked erosion, turning aqueducts into sand-filled scars. You trace his rebuttal, a jagged diagram comparing stone veins to human arteries. Mainstream fact, Nabataean pipes dropped just 2 fingers, width per 10 paces, a trickles marathon. Your pinky confirms it, barely a tilt under your nail. Quirky detail. Some argue engineers used goat fat to waterproof their ink, hence these greasy ghosts of math. A shattered stylus lies nearby, walnut would split by a sandaled stomp. You imagine the snap, a ruler's temper cracking like bad pottery. The wall flares with fevered calculations, margins crammed with proof a child could grasp. 18 degrees maximizes flow. 14 prevents collapse. 16 keeps silt suspended. Historians still argue whether the engineer adjusted his final blueprints or died mid-argument with numbers unsmudged. Your thumb finds a palm print preserved in soot, pinky curled like it's clutching dignity. The caretaker's coffee brews nearby, its bitterness merging with imagined regret. A tourist's selfie flash explodes, illuminating a hidden line. Let the king drink sand if he thirsts for haste. You smirk, then freeze. That phrase isn't in textbooks. Did some scholar scrub it, Or did the engineer whisper through time? Plaster flakes onto your collar, each fleck a pixel of dissolving history. You press a scrap of notebook paper against the wall, rubbing graphite to resurrect his charts. The caretaker watches, sipping his 6th century brew with 21st century apathy. Arguments outlast arguers, he grunts, kicking a pebble through a disputed gradient. Shadows stretch, sunset licks the engineer's final equation. You squint. Was that a zero added later or a tear stain? The numbers ripple heat or haunting. You can't tell. A lizard darts over the stylus shards, tiny feet rewriting history with skitter marks. Your water bottle sweats. Condensation drips onto the rant about erosion rates. Ink swirls, resisting dilution. For a heartbeat, the numbers sharpen bold as the day they burned. Then the drip wins, sentences blur into surrender. You wipe it hastily, smearing fool across floodplain. Night falls, the walls' fractures glow silver under your dying flashlight. That stubborn palm print seems to flex, beckoning you toward deeper tunnels. You hesitate, but the caretaker's snore decides it. 3 steps toward darkness. Then your heel grinds pottery, shreds into dust. An echo twangs, a copper wire strung across the passageway. Defensive measure or prank? It hums middle C, the same note Nabataean pipes sang under pressure. Your ribs vibrate, holding a concert no one bought tickets for. Moonlight leaks through a crack, bisecting the engineer's last sketch. His angles align perfectly with the beams, as if he planned for this moment. You mutter his numbers aloud, and the wire's hum shifts, pitch, a mechanical "I told you so." Dawn finds you asleep against his wall, cheek pressed to the palm print. The caretaker shakes you awake, pointing where fresh mortar seals the fractures. "Fixed it," he says, though his tool belt holds only a rusted wrench and yesterday's newspaper. Walking back through the sick, you glance at your graphite rubbings. The engineer's equations have bled through, reverse printed on your shirt. Passengers on a tour Jeep point, thinking it's some hipster band logo. You don't correct them, just touch the smudged zero, wondering if it's his sigh or yours. Your shirt clings, engineer's ghost math seeping into sweat. Sun punishes the gorge each step, kicks up dust that tastes of old wagers. Ahead, a crescent-shaped depression where reservoirs once hoarded monsoon grudges. You kneel, fingernails scrape silt to reveal bone-white geometry. A die winks up, 6 faces sanded into cloudy marbles. Pips blur where thumbs rubbed luck raw. Mainstream fact: Nabataean water contracts included penalty clauses, 5 goats forfeited per finger width below quota. This cube may be someone's collateral. Wind whistles through the reservoir's teeth, broken pillars stuttering like rotten molars. Your canteen sloshes, an accidental taunt. 5/10 full by the moon, the bet had demanded. You squint at cracked gauges, their numerals peeled off by thirsty lizards. Quirky detail: dig teams found 63 dice near water sites, always sheep knuckles, never ivory. This one's our old friend femur from a goat, that gambled its last bleat. You spin it, the 3-pip winks, sticky with resin from a desperation toss. Dust devils dance where sluice gates once groaned. Your shadow falls across the die, projecting giant pips onto dead stone. Historians still argue whether these cubes tracked rations or rolled fortunes, a thirsty man's lottery. You pocket the relic, its edges snagging fabric, reluctant to leave the game. A flash of green catches your heel, phthalocyanine paint from a 90s excavation team. Their spray-painted H2O approximately mocks the dead. You kick pebbles, they clatter into the reservoir's throat, echoing like dice in a cup. Hawks wheel overhead bookies of the updrafts. Your notebook warps in the heat sketches of hydraulic equations gone Picasso. That damn die burns through your pocket, itching for action. You flick it toward a scorpion. It lands on 5. The arthropod hesitates, then flees. Point to the house. Shade offers no relief. The sun bakes your spine into a question mark. You trace mortar lines with a dead twig, twice as old as your grandmother's piano. Someone scored bets here, hash marks hidden under mineral stains. 19 verticals, 4 horizontals, a tally of dried up dividends. A tourist brochure flutters past, advertising Petra by night, candlelit facades grinning like casino neon. You ball it up, 3-point shot into a Byzantine-era trash pit. The die whispers from your pocket double or nothing on tomorrow's rain. Lightning forks over distant ridges, cloudless and cruel. Your tongue swells, faux sympathy for long-dead losers. That bet's parchment. Dust. The king's wrath. Dust. The winner's smirk. Also dust. You spit grit. It hits the reservoir floor like a mic drop. Moonrise finds you counting stars mirrored in your canteen. 5 reflective glints, close enough to 5/10. The die approves rolling from your fist to land on 0. A hollow clink. It settles between stones, exactly where tomorrow's dig team will scream in delight. Your headlamp dies mid-chuckle blackout in the high-stakes parlor. Fingertips read the die's final argument, 6 pips worn to divots. Maybe it wasn't a gamble at all. Maybe it was a plea carved by someone praying the odds would notice. Dawn's first rays strike the reservoir. Your shadow stretches into a lever, pressing the sky. The die vanishes, sunk into silt, or slipped into time. Either way, the house always wins. Morning glare bounces off bronze your toe, nudges something that clinks like loose change. You crouch, sun-warmed metal kisses your palm. A dipper emerges, edges scalloped by 8 centuries of thirsty hands. Mainstream fact: Nabataean water stations welcomed donations, public cups hung on chains for shared sipping. This one's different. Turn it over, initials carve a lover's shorthand into the handle. Q and T Quintus and Thana. Theobald, wind whistles through the reservoir's teeth, a ghostly shrug. Your thumb rubs the engraving nearly polished smooth by generations of slippage. Quirky detail. One ledger lists a widow's tax. A single dipper exempted from metal reclamation edicts. Archaeologists found 7 matching this description, all buried under thresholds like protective talismans. Yours stinks of myrrh. Resin clung to its curves like a final perfume. Shadows pool in its bowl, liquid darkness swirling despite the desert's thirst. You lift it toward the sun. A crescent-shaped spotlight beams onto your cheek. Historians still argue whether these vessels held water or ashes, ambivalent urns for a culture fluent in drought. A beetle scurries over your boot, drawn by sweat or the dipper's false promise. You drip canteen water into the bowl, 3 drops that tremble like quicksilver. They cling to the center, refusing to touch the sides. An old trick, bronze purity tested by surface tension. Your backpack yields a protein bar. Its wrapper crinkles louder than tomb robbers. You snap the dipper's handle. It fits perfectly between sandstone cracks. Instant sundial. The shadow creeps toward hash marks only goats once read. Lunch tastes like guilt and peanuts. Thermals twist the horizon, mirage puddles, giggling at your dehydration. The dipper's weight feels familiar, a prehistoric cell phone missing its satchel. You picture Thana, let's call her Thana, bartering with water priests. Her braid coming undone as she argues for this tiny memorial. Sand grinds between the dipper and your palm, an ancient scratch-off ticket. Flash of green patina catches your eye, resembling corrosion, until you lick it. Pistachio residue. Some Byzantines used nut pastes to slow bronze decay. Your tongue regrets curiosity. Shade retreats, a coward abandoning you to solar interrogation. You jam the dipper into your belt, cold metal branding your hip. Corinthian columns crumble nearby, their shadows sketching jail bars across the sand. 2,000 years later, still guarding nothing. Wind unearths a pottery shard glazed with an ibex midleap. You balance it on the dipper's rim. Spin. It wobbles, choosing nor-northwest, a compass for people who trusted animal guts over magnetism. Nor-northwest leads to a cliff. Not your problem anymore. A tour group's laughter echoes through the sick, disembodied like arena cheers. You duck behind a broken cistern. The dipper slips, clatters into a voice amplifier. Your curse bounces off canyon walls. German children giggle. Thana's ghost rolls her eyes. Dust motes swirl inside the bowl tempests for mites. You inhale sharply, 8 centuries of skin cells, and someone's last mead party flood your sinuses. The sneeze startles a lizard off its rock. Gesundheit, Quintus. Heat warps the air, turning boulders into gelatin. You press the dipper to your forehead, regretting that 5th cup of camp coffee. Engravings leave temporary tattoos, QT stenciled in sweat. Cute. Your water bottle sweats, condensation, drip drip dripping a Morse code, SOS. The dipper catches each drop, amplifying the sound into timpani splashes. Thana's initials darken with moisture, briefly legible again. Q glistens like a liquid serif. Stone cools under your back as sunset bleeds out. The dipper glows, last light, licking its curves into neon. You hum a lullaby your ex hated. Metal against rock answers in harmonics, a 12-tone requiem for middle managers of the aquifer. Moonrise converts the reservoir into a mercury spill. You float the dipper, it tilts, but won't sink. Surface tension fights gravity, your own little battle of carry. The dipper drifts southeast toward those German kids abandoned Nalgene. Poetic justice floats on. Digger wasps swarm your abandoned protein bar. You lob the dipper like a frisbee. It clangs off a Roman-era trash heap. A triangle of lichen glows where it landed, phosphorescent under moonglow. Sure, why not? Dawn finds you scratching QT into sandstone, 5 centimeters tall. Light hits the T's crossbar as the sun crests, blinding you on purpose. When spots fade, the dipper's gone. Just a greenish smear where bronze surrendered to patina. Your canteen's last sip tastes like keys left in a lock. Somewhere, Thana laughs, her dipper clinking against others in the dark. A widow's tax paid in full interest, compounded by thirst. Your fingernail catches on limestone, a groove where poetry outlived its author. Capital letters, whether into braille, the spring's love letter, SMEARED, thirst. Mainstream fact, Nabataean engineers etched verses into aqueducts, hydraulic blueprints disguised as romance. The next stanza hides under calcified drips. Your water bottle squirts a weak decoder ring. Words bloom. Her voice wears a silk dress. The metaphor curdles half-finished, abandoned like last year's reservoir. Quirky detail. A poet's shovel was found nearby, its blade engraved with self-deprecating couplets. Ode to blisters ends abruptly, midway through a rhyme about shovel shapes resembling his ex's nose. Sun warms the stone, your cheek leans close enough to smell ancient ink. Vinegar and crushed lapis, Byzantine graffiti artists' favorite cocktail. Lines flirt with geology, your aqueducts curve, more tempting than a wadi's waste after rain. Historians still argue whether these carvings were maintenance logs or desert thirst hallucinations. You spot numbers disguised as flowers, a rainfall tally masquerading as petals. 72 blooms. Bad year for both roses and reservoirs. A tour guide's megaphone bleats nearby. Notice the Roman influences. You mouth along, knowing the Nabataeans built this canal 3 centuries prior. Your knuckle wraps the stone, a classroom disruptor challenging the lecture. Dust motes swirl through laser-straight channels, quills of sunlight rewriting the poem. Night leaks through the sluice gate's fingers. Your own fingers cramp sympathy pains for some dead scribe's carpal tunnel. Cool air snakes from a crack, the aqueduct exhaling mint-scented decay. Your phone dies, documenting line 17, modern tech, foiled by a 2,000-year-old punchline. The last photo shows your thumb eclipsing. Love's last droplet stains the ledger. Shade creeps like spilled ink. You pivot to chase readability. Sunburn prints a window pane pattern across the verse. Now it literally reads between the lines. A lizard licks the word, mirage, either vandal or unpaid editor. Your canteen sweats onto the carving, briefly resurrecting indigo pigment. Letters shimmer. Forgive me, the cisterns were, the sentence drowns as water evaporates. Cliffhangers hit harder in 48 CE. Ants march through a chiseled ode to monsoon, their bodies dotting eyes. You resist the urge to correct meter. Poetry snobbery dies hard in academia's shadow. The ant's hexameter. Wind riffles your notebook, pages filled with misguided attempts to rhyme aquifer and quiver. Bronze dipper from section 27 clinks on your hip, QT's ghost, clapping sarcastically from the grave. A chipmunk dive bombs your backpack, its claws snag a cliff bar. You lob the poet's shovel replica in retaliation. It pings off a Corinthian column, now an accidental percussion instrument. Score 1 for interdisciplinary art. Evening transforms the canal into a sundial's gnomon. Your shadow stretches across the final couplet. When the last tile cracks night, we'll kneel here to drink. Darkness pools in the verb kneel, an ink blot test for the ages. Your headlamp resurrects a palimpsest, older letters lurking under floral rainfall counts. Proto-Arabic curses against a foreman named Dashara. Even aqueduct workers hated middle management. Moth wings tap the limestone, powdering love into loam. Nature's ruthless editor. You carve your initials 6 centimeters from the original poets, a vandalism that'll confuse grad students in 4024. Moonlight washes the channel silver. Your fingers find carvings invisible by day. Raised dots spell constellations, or a drunkard's dice diary. The ancients' version of bathroom stall graffiti. Dew softens the stone night's sweat, releasing trapped myrrh. Suddenly, the love poem smells like a Jersey mall. You triple check no. That's just millennia of pollen fermentation. Digger wasps colonize the word infidelity, their nest distorting the second syllable into gibberish. You leave them to it, poetic justice for whoever cheated with the shovel poet's muse. Coyote yips echo through the canal, dubious literary critics judging the rhyme scheme. You recite verse 4 through a makeshift bullhorn, an energy drink can. The desert answers with a bored gust. Dawn reveals your notebook filled with nonsense, sleep deprivation, and Nabataean iambic pentameter make strange bedfellows. The poet's shovel glints in first light, still mid-couplet, about a mason's hands. You place the dipper at the poem's end, a bronze asterisk for the footnotes. Thana's initials flash once, QT, as both dedication and quality rating. 2,000 years later, the aqueduct still hates lazy metaphors. Sunrise bleaches the limestone blank. Verses retreating into mineral memory. Your shadow drips down the channel, a liquid silhouette chasing the punchline. Somewhere, Dashara the foreman groans, his coffee stone cold and overtime unpaid. Drums throb through bone-dry pipes, a hollow mockery of last season's springs. You squint at dancers spinning counterclockwise, jars of sand balanced on their heads like inverted hourglasses. Ash drifts from clay braziers. Each gust writes temporary hymns on your skin. Mainstream fact: Nabataean drought festivals included waterless processions, rituals to shame the gods into sending rain. A teenager scatters crushed pomegranate husks, mocking the sound of torrents against stone. Your boots kick up dust devils, miniature sandstorms that pirouette like drunken deities. Quirky detail: excavators found 83 left-foot sandals, here right soles conspicuously absent, as if the revelers danced into another dimension. Historians still argue whether these festivals were communal therapy or performance art for camels. You pocket a ceramic shard, its glaze still shimmering with embedded mica. A disco ball for ants. Someone thrusts a clay flute into your hands, its holes misaligned for maximum dissonance. You blow anyway. The screech echoes down dry canals like a lovesick jackal. Palm fronds crackle underfoot, mimicking the applause of dead audiences. A vendor sells air from imaginary clouds, his pouch just dates and disappointment. You trade your poet's shovel replica for a sip of his backstory. Turns out he's a fifth-generation disappointment merchant. Business is booming. Children chase mirages with reed nets, their giggles curdling when they catch only sunlight. You join the farce, swatting at vapor with the bronze dipper from section 27. It clangs against a stone lion's fang, the ringtone of existential dread. Elder women chant rainfall totals backward, 3:27:5, as if rewinding time to wetter years, their wrinkled fingers not ropes, measuring phantom reservoirs. You recognize the knots from section 14, mud alchemy turned into prayer. Torches gutter in salt winds, the flames lick air thicker than Pharaoh's sunscreen. Shadows twist into hieroglyphs of thirst, a crow-headed god sipping from an empty cup. Your canteen feels heavier, guilt waiting the last gulps you won't share. Men drag sledges over cracked tiles, reenacting the grind of moving aquifer stones. The sound scrapes your molars, a dental homage to dead engineers. Someone shouts Dashara's name. The crowd hisses like a cistern springing leaks. Teenagers dare each other to lick the driest spout, a tongue's pilgrimage to rust and regret. You decline. Digger wasps already claimed the loser's bracket in section 28. A mural crumbles as you lean closer, pigments dissolving into prophecies of deeper droughts. The artist hid a self-portrait in a cloud's contour, smirking like he knew the punchline. Nightfall brings no relief. The drums mutate into headaches. Stars reflect off dust motes, a celestial mirror ball for this sad prom. You smear ash on your forehead, anointment or surrender, depending on the decade. Dancers collapse mid-spin, sand pouring from jars like reverse hourglasses out of time. No one applauds. The silence between drumbeats grows obese, a woolen blanket smothering hope. Dawn exposes the revel's corpse, trampled dates, shattered flutes, a lone sandal pointing northeast. You spit out grit. It tastes like borrowed time and bad decisions. Somewhere, a night watchman's flute still wheezes. Section 15's lullaby, now a dirge. Your shadow flees westward, chasing the last drop's ghost through Dashara's coffee grounds. Dawn bleeds across Petra's bones, sunlight glinting off dry channels like broken jewelry. Your shadow elongates, stretching into a wispy giant that stumbles over silent cisterns. Beneath your boots, the city's aqueducts exhale a phantom breath, rippling through 8-ton limestone blocks. Mainstream fact: Nabataean engineers calibrated gradients to a 1-degree precision, harvesting flash floods that modern simulations still struggle to replicate. You crouch by a channel's edge, fingernails catching on mineral deposits thicker than Pharaoh's lies. A lizard darts over the groove, its scaled belly tracing the path of extinct streams. Quirky detail: excavators found 32 coins here in 1998, each stamped with frog symbols, amphibians being ancient rain meter mascots. Historians still argue whether Petra's collapse came from Roman plumbing envy or a century of especially petty gods. You pocket a shard of terracotta pipe. Its curve fits your palm like a lover's last shrug. Wind hisses through canyon cracks, a melody played on the teeth of dead storms. Your canteen sloshes, 3 sips left, each a guilty archaeology. A raven lands on a dry fountain, tipping its head as if remembering liquid. You blink for half a breath. The square shimmers with mirage puddles. Children's laughter ghosts through the agora, their bare feet slapping phantom mud. Then it's gone, erased by the sun's ruthless delete key. A soil sample clings to your sleeve, 2,000-year-old dust, moonlighting as a fashion statement. You half expect it to whisper secrets. Instead, it crumbles into a critique of modern skincare. Shade plays tag with sunlight, the 6 walls flickering like a zoetrope of despair. Your map rustles, its lines blurring into suggestions rather than fact. North feels theoretical here, a concept the desert mocks by rotating at whim. You count 17 pottery fragments in 10 steps, an accidental museum scattered by looters or boredom. One bears a thumbprint, Section 20's potter reaching across centuries to say, I was here, I mattered. At the treasury's facade, your breath hitches, air caught on hooks of awe and dehydration. A tour groups fossilized gum gleams on a pedestal, 20th century spearmint, fossilizing beside 1st century sandstone. Progress. Your boot dislodges a stone. It clatters down a shaft meant to measure rainfall. The echo takes 5 seconds to die. Petra's voicemail, greeting for the terminally curious. Ants march through a crack in the archive's wall, tiny librarians, cataloging papyrus fragments as snacks. You envy their purpose, historical preservation via digestive enthusiasm. Dust coats your phone screen. A notification reads riverbed yoga at 10. You snort. The desert giggles back with a sand-filled mouth. By the theater, A sparrow bathes in powdered limestone avian spa day in an ashen bird bath. Its satisfied chirp twists the knife of every dry fountain. You lie back, shoulder blades grinding into stone that once vibrated with hydraulic hymns. The sky weighs 90 pounds, a leaden lid on humanity's leftover soup. A bead of sweat rolls into your ear, saltwater conducting an existential monologue about futility. Somewhere, Bedouin tea steeps over a campfire, cardamom and defiance perfume the haze. Shadows stretch into obituaries, etching Petras resume into canyon walls. Here lies commerce, hydrology, and an unreasonable amount of staircases. Tourism claps weakly in the wings. Moonrise catches you licking residual dew off a Byzantine-era spoon. It tastes like failure and zinc, a Michelin-starred disappointment. But beneath it all, the sigh persists. Water molecules slow dancing in granite pores, aquifers humming lullabies to vacant reservoirs. You press your ear to bedrock, hearing the desert's stubborn heartbeat. Wait, it murmurs. Wait, dawn washes over Petra's stones, sunlight pooling in dry channels like spilled mercury. Your shadow grows gauzy, a companion shrinking and stretching across tired earth. The aqueducts below, a vibration felt through souls, not sound. They say the builders measured slope angles by starlight, crafting veins that outlive civilizations. Kneeling, you trace mineral veins in the channel's throat, crusts thicker than old kings' promises. A gecko freezes mid-dash, its path mirroring water roots erased centuries ago. Dig teams found frog-stamped coins, here 32 tiny charms pleading for rain. Scholars debate whether Rome stole Petra's water, or if the clouds simply forgot. Your palm cradles a pottery curve, a relic shaped like absence. Wind combs through canyon teeth, a rasping lullaby. 3 sips slosh in your canteen, each sip a theft from the dust. A raven cocks its head at a dry basin, performing an old routine for nobody. You blink, and for a heartbeat, children dart through steam ghosts of puddles. Their shouts dissolve into sunlight's white noise, erased before reaching your ears. 2,000-year-old dirt powders your collar, an heirloom clinging without permission. It refuses to confess, crumbling instead into a joke about permanence. Shadows and light chase across the sick, flickering film strip of a crumbling reel. Your map blurs directions dissolving into maybe and perhaps. North wobbles, a compass needle drunk on heat haze. 17 pottery shards lie in 10 paces, a trail of almost. One bears a thumbprint, someone's smile preserved in baked earth, saying still here. The treasury's face looms, your breath stutters against its grandeur. Chewed gum glints on stone modernities, offering beside ancient chisel marks. A kicked pebble plinks down a rain gauge shaft, its echo stretching thin. Petra's answer, a bored yawn from the deep. Ants parade papyrus, crumbs through a wall crack, history recycled as rations. You ache for their certainty, chewing the past to fuel today. Your phone screen glows under dust. A yoga reminder floats uselessly. The desert chuckles, a sandstorm's breath against your neck. A sparrow preens in powdered stone, ash transforming to diamonds in its feathers. Its chirp scolds every empty fountain. You recline, spine aligning with grooves worn by water carriers. The sky presses down, a woolen blanket stitched with vulture wings. Sweat trickles into your ear, salty gossip about endings. Far off, fire smoke weaves with cardamom and stubbornness. Shadows carve epitaphs into rose-red walls, built by thirst, abandoned by rain. Tourists snap photos, flashbulbs miming lightning. Moonlight finds you tasting dew from a rusted spoon, metallic echoes of wetter days. Beneath it all, the whisper persists. Slow water sighs through stone arteries, a pulse beneath your palm. Rest, it breathes. Rest. The desert tucks daylight away, one grain at a time.